from the different ministries, the different units, and the different departments throughout the Nevis Island administration, after which members of the press corps will be given the opportunity to ask their question. You're kindly asked in doing so to give the name of the organization, the press company that you represent, just in case we have to give follow-up information. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press, and I echo the sentiments of P.S. Wakely Daniel in his introduction in wishing everyone a very happy new year. I'm delighted to be here this morning. It's a beautiful morning in Nevis. We've had some good rain, and we're blessed, and we're happy to be alive, and we thank God for his mercies. This is the first of the New Year press conferences, and as normal, we have committed to engaging with the press once each month, and I am very pleased that that was a campaign commitment made when I ran in the campaign of 2017, and we have kept that ever since. It has now become a fixture, but of course we can't do it without members of the press, and so for those who are here, those who are on their way here, I say thank you. Let me start this press conference, the first for the year, by extending heartfelt condolences to the families of Lady Sheila Daniel. As we know, she is or was the widow of our national hero, Right Excellent and Right Honorable Sir Simeon Daniel, and she would have passed away quite recently. I'm told she'll be laid to rest this Friday, and I, of course, ask everyone to remember the family in their prayers. My dear brother Adrian Daniel and his family, her only surviving child. And so we extend deep condolences to the Daniel family. Let me in that same vein extend condolences to the family of Mr. Burley Walwyn, who was a long-standing worker at the Nevis Air and Seaports Authority. He was an executive member of my party, the Concerned Citizens Movement, and he was already laid to rest, but we extend condolences from this rostrum to his wife, his children, and the family that survives him. In similar vein, let me express my condolences to the family of Mrs. Esmeralda Dick. Mrs. Dick would have come here from St. Vincent, but I'm told she lived here for some 34 years in the Bath Village community, and she was a pillar of that community. Mrs. Dick worked at the electoral office for some years, and again we extend the deepest condolences to her husband, Mr. Grafton Dick, and the entire family and the Bath community. Let me also express heartfelt condolences to the family of my dear friend, my dear late friend now, Mr. Fitzroy Warner. Fitzroy was known to all of us. He was a businessman. He was a local commentator, political activist. Mr. Warner was a man of many words and tremendous wisdom. He has suffered for quite some time, and he succumbed to his illness. I believe I was told that he developed an infection, which unfortunately led to his death. And so I would want to extend to his entire family, his children, his siblings, my very deepest condolences. In similar vein, let me also express heartfelt condolences to the family of Miss Lisa Lee. Miss Lee was a teacher, someone who had dedicated her life to education. She worked with us in the early childhood development sector, and she will be sorely missed. She was a very young woman, I believe only in her 30s, and so we understand that we all have to make that transition, but certainly when it happens at such a young age, it is particularly hurtful. And so to her family that survived her, I extend my deepest condolences. Lastly, let me also extend condolences to the family of former Superintendent of Police Nelson Stapleton. Mr. Stapleton served the St. Kitts Nevis Police Force, and more specifically, he would have served here on the island of Nevis for quite some time. I extend my condolences to his entire family, and in particular, Al Stapleton, whom we know well and who works at Nevlik. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to use the opportunity afforded me here from the Premier's office and certainly from all of us here in government to extend my condolences to the bereaved families. If I can move from that sad note to a more optimistic and congratulatory note, let me congratulate my young brother, Jermaine Arthurton, on his promotion to assistant restaurant manager at the prestigious Four Seasons Resort. His promotion took effect on the 13th of January. Congratulations also to Miss Nikesha Henry, a former Miss Culturama, for being promoted to the position of People and Culture Coordinator at the Four Seasons Resort. We also congratulate my friend Faye Walters for her recent promotion at the Four Seasons Resort to Conference Service Manager. We also congratulate a proud Bath villager, Mrs. Kamara Lee Prentice, forgive me, for being named the Chief Human Resource Officer at the St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment Program. Nevisians continue to do great things, and I congratulate them. If I can now drill down, members of the press and the public who might be listening, to some of the specific sectors, and I go to the Ministry of Finance. The financial services sector continues to be a strong pillar of development for the island. There has been a steady increase in new business registrations, and we now have 46 trust and corporate service providers that currently operate in the sector. We have seen an increase in the revenue collected from the sector, which was up by $1.29 million to $16.88 million in 2024. Marketing this sector, you would agree with me, is critical. And so, I'm here to announce that very early this year, we intend to create a special agency called Nevis Finance to champion the marketing efforts. This agency will replace the Nevis Financial Services, the Nevis Financial Services sector marketing efforts on par with some of the other jurisdictions in the region. In establishing this agency, we intend to recruit a Chief Operations Officer to run the agency, and we intend to have closer collaboration with the private sector. Also, as part of our marketing efforts, in May of this year, the Society for Trust and Estate Practitioners, STEP Nevis branch, will be hosting the STEP Caribbean Conference on May 15th to 16th at the Marriott Resort in St. Kitts. And before you ask the question as to why Nevis STEP is hosting a function at the Marriott Resort, it's because we're told that the only other resort that could have accommodated is the Four Seasons, and they're full during that time. And so we have no difficulty. We are taking that business to the Marriott in St. Kitts. It is one federation after all, and we anticipate an excellent conference, May 15th to 16th. And of course, there will be activities on Nevis as well. We are partnering with STEP, and I would want you to know that we had to compete to host this conference, and so Nevis was successful in attracting this conference. I want to put on record my thanks to Helen Lewis, who is a STEP member emeritus. She will coordinate our efforts on this, and we are very grateful that STEP, this prestigious organization, will be hosting this conference here. It gives us certainly an opportunity to showcase what financial services is offering on the island of Nevis, especially as it comes on the heels of our celebration of 40 years of offering these services to the world that we celebrated last year. If I can shift now to the Inland Revenue Department. The IRD continues to modernize its operations and to enhance its service using technology. We now have a new information system, and taxpayers are encouraged to register and pay their taxes online. From January, the department, working in collaboration with the Traffic Department, has revised the process for vehicle registration and driver's licenses. The Traffic Department has automated the vehicle inspection, and the inspection agencies must now generate and submit inspection reports electronically. Therefore, please ensure that your vehicle satisfies the inspection criteria so that you're not delayed in licensing. You know the tint must be 35% or more to pass inspection. Your tires must be of good standard. Your number plate must be visible, especially at night, and your car must be in good condition. Now, of note, ladies and gentlemen, is that in the past, we got our inspection, and the inspection agency gave us a certificate. that we then took in manually. That is no more. The Inland Revenue Department will not accept any physical paper inspection. It has now to be submitted online. It is also a requirement that insurance companies submit an electronic copy of the insurance document to the Traffic Department for all vehicles that are insured. Take note and make sure that your insurance company and inspection agency are doing what they should be doing. On the issue of business licenses, business license for 2025 is due and payable on January 31st, 2025. Once you have already registered on the Inland Revenue Department portal, you can renew and pay your business license online. However, you will have to collect the business license certificate by visiting the department. The Inland Revenue website, I remind you, is www.sknird.com. Remember, please, that interest and penalties apply, but only if you're late. So I encourage you to go in and do what you need to do on time to avoid any penalties and any interest. In December last year, I had the pleasure of presenting the NIA budget for 2025. The budget provides a guide for the operations of the NIA. It is based on projections for revenue and expenditure. At each annual budget, I clearly outline that the extent to which we roll out our spending programs depends on our ability to access funding, especially for executing the items as outlined in our capital expenditure program. We always assure the public that we will not be reckless in our spending, and we will only seek to undertake projects if the funding is available or can be accessed at low cost in accordance with our debt management strategy. Where funding cannot be accessed at concessionary rates, we curtail our expenditure program and carry forward to the new fiscal period any projects which were not executed due to the lack of approved financing. For the first half of fiscal year 2025, we will see a reduction in the value-added tax from 17% to 13% as laid out in the federal budget read by Prime Minister Drew. This will impact the revenue collected at the Customs and Inland Revenue Departments in Nevis, the two highest revenue collection departments of the NIA. This, along with other factors, have created a shortfall in the identified funding of the budget of between 15 to 20%. This is neither unusual nor alarming. Let me repeat. This is neither unusual nor alarming. The budget estimates for 2010, for example, highlighted a budget deficit of $42.7 million and represented, therefore, unfunded expenditure for the then NRP-led Nevis Island administration. I use that only to show that it is a standard practice in budgeting that we set out what our forecasts and projections look like, but always with the caveat that it depends on our ability to raise the necessary financing to achieve them. All it means is that the administration at the time of the budget had not yet specifically identified a revenue source to support some of that expenditure, and as I've emphasized, particularly the capital expenditure. This is the case for the 2025 budget, and while we seek to identify the appropriate revenue stream in accordance with our debt management strategy to meet this shortfall, it has become necessary for us to withhold 15 to 20% of the allocated expenditure. Once we've identified the revenue source to meet this unfunded amount, the Ministry of Finance will make necessary arrangements to release additional funds to ministries and departments for the fiscal year. We have met and clearly communicated to our permanent secretaries and other relevant officers that position. As Minister of Finance in the Nevis Island Administration, I remain committed to the prudent management of the fiscal affairs of Nevis, and I have been consistent in this approach over the last several years to keep expenditure and debt within manageable levels. Members of the press, the potential of our people at home and abroad is limitless. Thus, tapping into that potential is key to the development of our island. You have heard me time and time again indicate that we cannot, as part of our development, leave out those Nevisians and Kittitians who happen to live abroad. We are therefore pushing for them to be part, not just to pay lip service, but to encourage them, to facilitate where possible, and to encourage that they invest in this, the land of their birth or the land of their ancestry. And so I'm very pleased to announce this morning that we have, on the island of Nevis, issued formally a new returning national and diaspora investment policy. We will have done so on the 21st of January 2025, and I expect that you will hear more about that policy as we go forward. But as I appeal to our people in the diaspora, as I appeal to those who are interested in retiring and coming back home, those who have children and grandchildren who might be interested in investing here at home, those who want to build here, do something here even though they're not ready to retire yet, and they want to build something, maybe Airbnb or whatever, they want to invest in a villa, they want to come back to take care of old abandoned properties that they've left here and their forefathers have left here. I am encouraging them, and we have now put in place a formal policy. To give a flavor of that policy, we have approved the establishment of a dedicated unit to deal with all aspects relating to the returning national diaspora investment policy. This unit, which is attached to the Ministry of Finance, will act as a direct liaison for those wishing to return to Nevis, thus providing a one-stop shop for issues associated with their return. The administration has approved a package of fiscal concessions for those wishing to return and or invest in Nevis under this new policy. These concessions include customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of all used personal items, customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of a vehicle, whether for personal or business use. The exemption applies also if the vehicle is purchased locally. If that vehicle is sold in St. Kitts, Nevis within 3 years of importation or local purchase, then customs duty will become payable. Customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of construction materials for any residential, commercial, or mixed-use building construction being undertaken in Nevis. The exemption applies also if materials are purchased locally. If such materials are sold in St. Kitts, Nevis within 3 years of importation or local purchase, then customs duties become payable. Customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of furniture and fittings for residential or business use. The exemption also applies if furniture and fittings are purchased locally. If those furniture or fittings are sold in St. Kitts and Nevis within 3 years of importation or local purchase, then customs duties become payable. Customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of any tools and equipment for startup business. The exemption also applies if tools and equipment are purchased locally. If tools and equipment are sold in St. Kitts and Nevis within 3 years of importation or local purchase, then customs duties become payable. The applicant must take the necessary steps to formally apply for a business license to benefit from this concession. Customs duty exemption on the importation into Nevis of initial goods representing startup stocks and supplies for any new business. Important note, VAT and customs service charge will be payable on all the items listed above, as well as the environmental levy where applicable. Duty-free concessions granted under this policy cannot be combined with any VAT reduction days. Where the business to be established is one of the priority areas as outlined below, then additional concessions will be offered on application to the Ministry of Finance. These areas are specialized medical care with emphasis on diagnostic services, information technology, ICT development, technical and vocational skills development training, hotel and resort development, light manufacturing, professional services including accounting, auditing, construction management, and architecture, call or contact center operations, agro processing, agriculture, recycling and waste disposal, alternative green energy consultations, sales, and installation. Put differently, if your proposed business falls into one of those categories, then you can be eligible for additional concessions on application to the Ministry of Finance. Where applicants, and this is important, this is very important, where applicants are not holders of a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, but can show that their ancestral roots are in St. Kitts and Nevis through their parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents, they shall be required to apply for an alien landholding license to purchase real estate on Nevis. However, the applicable alien landholding license fee of 10% of the value of the real estate shall be waived. All alien landholding license applications are processed within 14 days of submission. Just to explain that quickly, if you are a non-citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, that is, you do not hold a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, you have to apply for something called an alien landholder's license in order to purchase property on the island. The difficulty we've figured out from our interaction with members in the diaspora community is that some are several generations removed, meaning that they are now grandchildren and great-grandchildren of persons who came from the island of Nevis or the island of St. Kitts. And we are now saying, therefore, that even if those do not have a passport, so let's say your great-grandfather left Nevis, went to England, he had children, and they had children, and they had children, that down to your grandparents, that is down to the great-grandchildren, I'm sorry, great-grandparents, once you can prove that that is the lineage, then we still would require that you apply for the license, but the fee that is normally payable of 10% will not apply to you. Where applicants are starting up or acquiring a business on Nevis, they shall be entitled to apply for concessions as outlined up to 12 months after returning to Nevis. What do I mean by that? You cannot come back to Nevis and live in Nevis for 4, 5, 10 years and say, oh, let me now take advantage of this policy. If you're moving back, you have to apply within 12 months of that move in order to benefit from the policy. Put differently, you can apply, of course, in advance, but once you've moved back to the island, you have 12 months within which to make that application. In order to benefit from concessions for business establishment, applicants must show a minimum investment of US $100,000. These concessions for business establishment include, so separate and apart to what I've said earlier, we're now saying that if you want to set up a business, then you must be investing a minimum of 100,000 US dollars. You will get concessions, additional, separate to what I've said before, and these concessions include customs duty exemption on all items of furniture, equipment, tools, construction materials, vehicle and startup stocks and supplies as outlined above. The exemption also applies if such items are purchased locally. If such items, with the exception of startup stocks and supplies, are sold in St. Kitts and Nevis within 3 years of importation or local purchase, then customs duties become payable. Importantly, again, VAT and customs service charge will be payable on all items listed, as well as the environmental levy where applicable. Duty-free concessions granted under this policy for businesses cannot be combined with any VAT reduction days. We are also offering exemption from payment of corporate income tax or unincorporated business tax for the first 3 years of operation. Reduction of work permit fees by 50% for the first 3 years of operations if trained foreign workers are to be employed. Please note that this does not apply if the desired skill set is available in St. Kitts and Nevis. We will waive the business license fee for the first year of operation and apply a 50% rebate on such fees for years 2 and 3. All additional exemptions as may be approved by the Ministry of Finance in reference to businesses established in the specialized areas as I have outlined above. The applicant must take the necessary steps to formally apply for and keep current a business license to benefit from those concessions that are relevant to businesses and the establishment of businesses. All applications are to be made to the Ministry of Finance, Main Street, Charlestown, Nevis, on the relevant form as prescribed, along with the necessary supporting documentation. For more information, I encourage you in the diaspora to email finance.nevis@niagovkn.com. finance.nevis@niagovkn.com, or call them at 1-869-469-5521. Members of the press have taken some time to go through that new policy because I think it is groundbreaking. It is in line with what we see happening elsewhere. It is particularly, I think, relevant now that our largest, closest neighbor, the United States of America, under President Trump, has indicated quite categorically that they will be seeking to deport from their country any of our nationals who are not regularized, whose status in their countries is not regularized. So if you're undocumented and you're in the United States or her territories, because incidentally, just last evening I was informed that ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is also conducting raids in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And so if you're in St. Thomas, St. Croix, you're in the territory of Puerto Rico, you're in the mainland United States, and you're undocumented, you may have difficulties going forward. I am saying to those who may be undocumented but are in America, I am saying to those who are documented but living in America, that you have a home here in Nevis. And for those who can, I encourage you to rekindle your love affair with this, the place of your birth or the place of your ancestry. We need you. We need your development. We need your development dollars. We need your skill set. We need your energy in order to propel Nevis forward. I have commented publicly time and time again that we keep talking about foreign investors. And whilst we welcome them, we must also welcome our own people to invest and to share in the development of our country. If I can move then to the Ministry of Health, Gender and Social Development. I am pleased to announce that the pulmonary clinic was held on January 17th at the Alexandra Hospital. Dr. Binu George and his team, Ms. Ursula Phillip and Nurse Patel, offered care to 17 persons on the island. Patients of varying ages were seen for respiratory issues. It is hoped that similar clinics and more persons can benefit in the future. Urology and Associates held its annual prostate screening on Saturday, 18 January at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. 633 males benefited from this screening. The ministry is appealing to our men who have reached the age of 40 to get their prostate checked. Prostate cancer is one of those diseases that can be cured 100% if caught in time. Please get your prostate exam done. Pap smear screening was conducted at all health centers on Saturday, January 25th. We encourage our women to continue to have their annual pap smear screenings done. And I'm told to say to you that once you're sexually active, you should have your pap smear screenings done. The statistics from our screening, 145 women were screened on Saturday, January 25th, including 16 new persons who presented for screening. We again encourage our women to get screened. Pap smears are offered for free at our clinics. We also have, of course, breast cancer screening. We have our mammogram machines that we've invested significantly in at the hospital. You would recall when we did a free screening, 399 women availed themselves of that opportunity. There is now a nominal cost applicable, but your health is your wealth. Your health is the most expensive thing that you have. Without it, none of us is anything. And so I urge you to invest in your health and get screened. There is, ladies and gentlemen, currently an outbreak, I'm sad to say, of hand, foot, and mouth disease in the Federation. In Nevis, we have had 32 known cases, 19 males and 13 females. The symptoms include fever, mouth sores, and rash on hands, feet, and sometimes buttocks. Even though children are usually affected, we are encouraging everyone to wash your hands often for at least 20 seconds with soap and water, disinfect surfaces using chlorine-based disinfectants, cleaning regularly to disinfect toys, doorknobs, switches, countertops, and other highly touched areas. Avoid close contact where possible. Practice good hygiene, and I notice that some people now are choosing to wear a mask. Whatever you can do to protect yourself. We are accustomed to this from COVID. It taught us what we needed to do to protect ourselves from these types of respiratory and what's the word I'm looking for? Gastroenteritis that affect our gastric system or our respiratory system. And so I encourage you to do that. I should tell you that the Ministry of Education has been responsive. We have sadly had to close 2 preschools for 2 days, 2 government preschools, I think the Combermere and Ines France. We had also had to close a private preschool as well. All of them have since reopened, but when we closed, we did a deep clean and we ensured that the area was prepared. The Ministry of Education is working very closely with the Ministry of Health. As we know, this disease, hand, foot, and mouth disease, is predominant in children. It can affect adults as well, but it's predominant in children. And children, as we know, they play with each other, they touch each other, they cough, they do all of these things. And so we are encouraging the parents to be proactive. When we find children who are tested positive, we send them home. We ask their parents to try to isolate them at home. And they are only reintegrated into the school population once they've been cleared by our medical team. Having said that, members of the press, members of the public know that I have always implored our people to be responsible. And I was quite dismayed to have reports that some parents, even knowing that their children have this disease, have nevertheless sent their child to school. And their argument is that they have no one to keep the child. I am saying to you that your child is your responsibility. People may not want to hear me say it, but your child is your responsibility. It is nobody else's responsibility. We have them, we have a duty to take care of them. And to send your sick child back to school to potentially infect other children is irresponsible behavior. So I invite our parents, please, to be responsible as we combat this outbreak together. The Nevis Health Promotion Unit is conducting a 6-week chronic disease self-management workshop, which begins on February 5th. It will be held once a week from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at the Gender Affairs Conference Room. The dates are February 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th, and March 5th and 12th. Let me switch to some very good news from our Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority. Work has begun at the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority to construct a warehouse as part of the St. Kitts and Nevis Recycling Project that is being conducted in partnership with Taiwan's ICDF. The construction is expected to conclude in May, and the facility will house recycled plastic bottles, aluminum cans, and cardboard. A new baler and truck will also be bought as part of the second phase of this project. This is a project, members of the press, that we are very proud of here on the island of Nevis. Because since we've introduced this project in partnership with Taiwan, we have already shipped 2 40-foot containers of baled plastics off the island. We all understand plastics are a problem. They are not just an island problem, a national problem, a regional problem. They are a global problem. And plastics getting into the ocean causes a number of problems, including difficulties for our food supply. And so, Nevis is doing its part in partnership with Taiwan, and we have already shipped 2 40-foot containers of baled plastics off this island. This investment, again by Taiwan, partnering with us, will afford us the opportunity to do even more. We encourage one and all to get on board and to recycle and to ensure that we deal with our garbage responsibly. The Department of Community Development has officially commenced the agro-processing workshop at the Pond Hill Community Center. We have a total of 21 registered persons, and it is being facilitated by Ermin Hendrickson. It's a 6-week workshop, and it will be held every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. as Ermin passes on her skills to these young entrepreneurs, young people, not so young people, all of those who are interested in food processing, agro-processing. It is hoped that we will be able to develop their skills and knowledge in agro-processing by learning to make agricultural byproducts from excess fruits, thus reducing waste and spoilage. All of this is a part of our double thrust. 1, to feed ourselves greater food security. 2, to increase our entrepreneurial activity on the island and grow our local economy. The federal government, during the budget of 2024 for 2025, announced the Budget Boost Wallet Program. And that Budget Boost Wallet Program, as I understand it, is offering $250 EC dollars to each person who is earning less than $5,000 for a duration of 6 months. The Department of Community Development will be assisting Nevisians with the registration of individuals enrolling for the Budget Boost Wallet Program, where eligible person will receive a monthly payment, as I've said, of $250 for 6 months. The following community centers will be open daily to assist persons from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Charles Walters Community Center in Hanley's Road, the Pond Hill Community Center, the Jessups Community Center, the Franklin Brown Community Center. You can also get assistance at Social Services and Gender Affairs. We don't want anyone to be left out or to say they did not know. And I applaud the Honorable General Nisbet and her team for coming up with this idea to help people with the registration effort. So please show up at the community centers and get registered and benefit from this. The Social Services Seniors Division would have held its first activity for 2025, which saw about 60 seniors congregating at the Craddock Road Church of God of Prophecy for their annual Thanksgiving service. The Nevis Cooperative Credit Union is now the proud sponsor of the Seniors Division 85th birthday celebrants as of January 2025. Each senior attaining this significant milestone will receive a plaque and a fruit basket, compliments of the Nevis Credit Union. TDC Group of Companies continues to sponsor our seniors who attain the ages of 80, 90, and 100. We thank these corporate sponsors for their partnership. The Seniors Recreation Group, in collaboration with the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, will resume its recycling initiative on Friday, 24 January. The collection of bottles will begin at approximately 8:30 from individual homes around Nevis, and the meeting point is at the Old Artisan Village in Charlestown. We want to thank Teshron Maynard, who usually assists with the collection of bottles, to take them to the site. Members of the press, let me move quickly to the all-important tourism sector. We know now that we are in the midst of our tourism season, and I'm pleased to say that based on the numbers for our cruise season, we are expecting a total of passengers and crew 29,321 persons visiting the island by sea. That compares very favorably to the 17,694 persons that we expected in the 2023-2024 season. We're therefore seeing a 65.7% increase, and I'm hopeful that that translates into more activity and more business for our artisans, our taxi drivers, our tour operators, and of course our restaurants and those who offer various allied services in the tourism industry. Let me look at an indicator that I often use to see where we are headed, and to tell you that our Tourism and Development Levy, which is our 2% tax, that for December 2024, we were able to improve our performance over December 2023 by 6.11%. December 2024 over December 2019, which was the last year before COVID, is up 172.49%, just to give you the sense of how we have jumped from where we were in 2019. The total for 2024 is up 5.77% over 2023, and the total for 2024 is up a whopping 43.88% over 2019. So we are definitely moving in the right direction. Let me also tell you that Southern Tide, which is a US-based clothing brand, will be undertaking a photo shoot on Nevis from February 10th to 14th. They're based out of Southern California. I'm sorry, forgive me. They're based out of South Carolina and have 850 retail locations across the U.S., selling men's, women's, and children's apparel and accessories. They did a similar shoot. Forgive me. They did a similar shoot just prior to the pandemic, and it's great to welcome them back. You must know, ladies and gentlemen, that photo shoots is also part of one of the initiatives that we have undertaken for the island of Nevis, and so we are grateful that Southern Tide has come back to do its annual photo shoot here. Film Focus Nevis. Film Focus Nevis is a collaboration between the Nevis Film Commission and Movies at NEPAC. The mission is to provide a platform from which local, regional, and international films can be screened, compelling stories told, and a variety of subject matters discussed, while at the same time helping to develop our local talent and attracting filmmakers to Nevis. This, we hope, in turn, will bring economic benefit to the people of Nevis. The idea is that eventually, locally produced films will be entered into regional and international film festivals, which will not only benefit the filmmakers and all those involved, but also bring awareness to Nevis as a film destination. We want to thank the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation as the main sponsor. Cape Year was given cash and air tickets in support of this initiative. For updates on this very important thrust in film and the film industry, we ask you to go on the Facebook page of Film Focus Nevis or on their Instagram pages as well. Just a few other quick highlights from tourism. We have the Four Seasons Resort and Sunshine's Beach Bar. They've been nominated for USA Today's 10 Best Readers' Choice Awards. Four Seasons, in fact, has been nominated in 3 categories: the Best Caribbean Resort, the Best Caribbean Golf Course, and the Best Restaurant in the Caribbean, Escalina. Sunshine's Beach Bar will also be nominated in the category Best Caribbean Beach Bar. Nevis, members of the press may have noticed that Nevis has been featuring quite prominently in various international publications, and I think it's quite a coup for this little island that we were recently featured in Forbes magazine, which listed Nevis as a top tourist destination and regional player. Nigel Tisdale, writing for the Daily Mail in the UK, has visited every Caribbean island and has named Nevis among the top 3. I believe the other 2 were Grenada and Jamaica. So we're in good company, and the island is getting excellent exposure. Our Nevis Tourism Authority would have taken the spotlight, and the island of Nevis would have taken the spotlight, at Brown Folks Connect, an event held in Manhattan, hosted by Candy Carter, our ambassador for diversity. Brown Folks Connect is a dynamic networking platform for diverse senior-level entertainment professionals. Founded to create meaningful connections within the industry, the group brings together talented executives and on-air talent to foster collaboration, support, and professional growth. Over 200 media professionals were in attendance. The event celebrated Nevis's rich heritage and its unique appeal as a vacation destination. A video message from myself as Premier highlighted Nevis's ties to Alexander Hamilton and Cicely Tyson. CBS News correspondent Ashha Karashi won an all-expenses-paid trip to the island. The event marked a significant step in Nevis's outreach to the African-American community, fostering connections and cultural pride. I should say that this is the 2nd year that we have partnered with Brown Folks Connect. Last year, we actually had a mixologist who went and did all the signature drinks from Nevis for that event. We also welcome the Soconomics Wellness Retreat, led by celebrated fitness expert and Soconomics founder Selena Watkins, which was hosted at the Mount Nevis Hotel from January 16th to 20th. The vibrant event focusing on fitness, wellness, and cultural celebration, attracted participants from across the globe, showcasing Nevis again as a premier destination for wellness. These achievements and recognitions reaffirm our island as a standout destination in the Caribbean. We are being celebrated for our luxury, our rich heritage, our natural charm, and our forward thinking. With global accolades and impactful events, Nevis continues to inspire and captivate travelers from all corners of the world. Having said all that, which is good news, let me, ladies and gentlemen, sound a note of unfortunate news. You would know that we would have invested significantly in some developments here. We would have significantly invested in the Malcolm Gishard Park and the Pinnis Beach facility. We have invested significantly in the Bath Stream and Bath Hot Springs area. And I believe that the accolades have poured in. Even the worst critics of this government, I believe, have been forced to admit that those were timely and important investments that have lifted the standard and raised the expectations of our people and the level to which our people can enjoy these facilities. It was very sad then to learn that the hot springs and some of the signage erected there was vandalized by persons who decided that the best use of their time was to go there and destroy what we, the people of Nevis, would have invested in, what we, the people of Nevis, are trying to build. I am asking again our people to protect what we have, to ensure that when these investments are made, we cherish them. I have heard some rather foolish comments made. For example, that the improvements made at the Bath Stream are for white people. They weren't done for us. I don't know what that means. Because if the improvements there and everybody admit that it has lifted that area, it means that our own people, and I say it every chance I get, whenever this government does something on this island, we do it for our people. If those who visit also can enjoy it, then that is extra. That is something that we consider an added benefit. But what we do for our people. In fact, you would realize that even though now we're charging a nominal fee for the use of the facility, our people are still free. The people of Nevis can still use that facility for free. So of course we did it for our people. And it therefore behooves our people to protect it. I cannot understand for the life of me what pleasure anyone can derive from seeking to destroy government property. And some people seem to be of the view that government is some individual. Government is someone. In truth, government is us. And those of us like myself who are privileged to stand here today as your premier, we are merely the occupants, the people who are put on the stage for whatever time that you, the people, permit and allow. So we must start to reimagine our views of government and understand that whether you support this government or not, whether you're political or you are apolitical, it ought not to matter. You must see the value in preserving what we have as Nevisians and Kittitians. Let me extend it to our people in St. Kitts as well. Preserving what we have. Let's not mash up. Because when you mash up, and the same government that you think you're doing something to when you mash up, guess what? You are the taxpayers whose money the government is going to have to use to fix it. So we're all in this together. I don't understand how anyone could seek to destroy what we have done at the Bath Stream. It is so beautiful. Members of the press, if you've not gone there, please, I encourage you to do so. It is so beautiful. It has lifted that area. So please, let us protect what we have. And so, again, it comes back to my theme of our people being responsible. Let me now move on to some opportunities. This is a government that believes in investing in our young people. And we have invested and continue to invest. We are not just as a government paying lip service. Members of the press, if you don't want to take my word for it, do your own investigation. It is unprecedented the way that this government, that I'm privileged to lead, has invested in young people, in their education, in their training, in helping them to set up small businesses by providing seed financing, and in ensuring that when they're trained and qualified, that they're given the opportunity to lead on this island. We have young people in the cabinet, we have young people leading our schools, we have young people leading various institutions, and this government continues to encourage our young people. We're not just saying it, we are showing it, and the evidence is there. As part of that, I have come here time and time again to encourage our young people to take advantage of scholarship opportunities that are available. I am therefore pleased to announce that the Taiwan ICDF scholarships for 2025, that applications are now open. The Taiwan MOFA scholarships for 2025, applications are now open. The Edinburgh Napier University and the NIA scholarship, it's a joint effort, that application is now open. The Monroe College and NIA scholarship, again a joint effort, that is now open. Turkey has offering scholarships and those applications are now open. The University of Medicine and Health Sciences and Windsor University of Medicine scholarships are now open. And the Nevis Island Administration financial assistance, which is separate to all of those, that is now open. You hear how many things I say are open? It is for our young people now to take the initiative. Parents, encourage your youngsters. A lot of times we say, oh, they're out of sixth form, they're not working yet. But if they have the opportunity to go directly off to university, you realize that they may be back here at the age of 21 or 22, fully degreed and prepared to take up their role to help build in Nevis. And so I encourage our youngsters to take the initiative. We as government can only encourage you. Ultimately, it is for you to decide that you're going to take that initiative. Taiwan, ICDF, that's one set of scholarships. Taiwan, MOFA, another set. Edinburgh, Napier, and NIA, joint effort. Monroe and NIA, joint effort. The government of Turkey, scholarships. The University of Medicine, Health Sciences, and Windsor University of Medicine, scholarships. And indeed, we hope to announce very shortly the Medical University of America scholarships. They offer 2 each year. And then the Nevis Island Administration, financial assistance. And I just want, for recording purposes, to put it on record, that over the past 12 years, 275 young Nevisians have benefited from the Nevis Island Administration financial assistance. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have taken a policy decision that those who are studying online can also benefit from that assistance. In the past, there was a policy that only if you were traveling overseas to study, you could get a benefit. But with so many people now studying online, and the online study is beneficial to us because we continue to get that person's expertise at work even while they're studying, we decided that it was only fair that we extend the assistance to those studying online. And so 275 youngsters have already benefited, with more to come. And as I pointed out, and continue to point out, we are not just encouraging people to go off and get educated. We are not just encouraging people to go off and get trained. We are saying to you that when you come back, there is room for you. There's a place for you. And as the economy grows, and as the needs of modern government grow, there will be opportunities afforded you. And we expect that you will be able to get every opportunity in your own country. If you go abroad and you get bad treatment, I say I am sorry, but I am not responsible for that. But when you come home, you must not get bad treatment at home. This is where you're from. And you must get every opportunity. We believe in our young people. And as a government, we will continue to support them 100%. Let me just say that if you want information, feel free. We have people ready and willing to help you. Call 469-5521, extension 5.61, ask for Mrs. Shanola Murray Gill, or extension 5164, ask for Miss Carissa Griffin, or extension 5166, ask for Mrs. Shelley Jones Liebert. Three beautiful ladies who epitomize professionalism and customer service, and they will help you. I want to thank them and also thank PS Scooby, Mr. Barrett, for his continued assistance and leadership in this regard. So please apply. Over 20 new persons benefited from scholarships and NIA financial assistance in 2024, while other beneficiaries who left in recent years prior to 2024 continue to be supported. And just so you understand, ladies and gentlemen, when the NIA gives financial assistance, it's for the duration of the study. It may not be a full scholarship, but it is for the duration. So even though we said 20 persons last year, remember those 20 will be supported over the course of their 3 or 4 year training. So that's important to know. As other scholarship opportunities become available, we will let you know. Members of the press, I beg you to help me beg people to apply, because that is the only way that they will benefit. I don't want to hear that our parents are going to Development Bank and National Bank and getting big loans when they could get a scholarship for their children to study for free. Let me go to the all-important Public Works Department. The drilling program for water has resumed after the Christmas break. After the 2 wells in Maddens, they are producing a whopping 600,000 gallons per day in total. The drillers have moved to the 3rd site at Daysense. So I'm coming up to Gingerland, just behind the Best Buy supermarket in Gingerland. Upon completion at Daysense, we intend to go now to Braziers. Work has begun on the first of the 2 new Maddens well sites that were recently dug in terms of connecting them to the water system. Work should be completed shortly. The water lines are already in place, but power to the site is still to be completed. But we expect to have that additional 600,000 gallons or so in our system very shortly. To put it in context for you, members of the press, our goal with this drilling program, 9 wells we contracted to drill, was to get an additional 1.5 million gallons. So from 2 wells, we've already achieved 600,000 gallons. So we are optimistic that the other wells will yield or give us a good yield accordingly. The United Arab Emirates donated desalination plant. You would recall that we had negotiated 2, one for St. Kitts and one for Nevis. Well, I'm pleased to announce that the one in Nevis is now fully operational and has been connected already to our water system. The plant is producing approximately 30,000 gallons per day when we only power it by solar. But it can produce 70,000 gallons a day if we also use regular electricity. The official commissioning will occur in a few weeks, but you are already drinking desal water in Nevis, and many of our people didn't even notice. In fact, I am pleased to say that over the past weeks, one of our wells in Maddens went down. The pump failed, and we didn't have any water load shedding on the island because the water from the desal plant was able to pick up the slack. And so we are already delivering on more water for the people of Nevis. And I'm hopeful that the days when we had water shortages and water problems, that those days are over. But I continue to urge our people to conserve water as much as possible. The Philatelic Bureau is undergoing a transition exercise that will commence on February 3rd, 2025. During this exercise, the Bureau will be open to the general public from 9:30 to 12 noon until further notice, and will operate now as a unit of the Nevis Post Office. Public Works, going back to young people, going back to training, going back to having confidence in them. Guess what we've done? We have sent 2 of our young persons, Andres Bartlett and Kester Webb, to Lexington, Kentucky. They left on Monday to undertake a 2-week training stint at the Asphalt Institute in Lexington. The period of training is January 28th to February 7th. Mr. Bartlett is a supervisor at the asphalt plant, while Mr. Webb is an inspector of works in the roads division of the Public Works Department. During the first week, they will undertake the basic mixtures technician training course. In the second week, they will undertake the mixed design technology certification training course. Both courses' content comprise of a mixture of classroom lectures and practical training in a lab setting. And this training is fully funded by the NIA. Now, why do I mention that? I mention that because, again, we are investing in our local people. We are developing the skill sets of our local people. And in this case, we hope that that will pay dividends. You know that we have embarked on a very ambitious road program where we are building new roads and upgrading existing roads. So these skill sets are going to be critically important to us. In fact, I believe that even our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts should feel proud, because recently we were able to lend to St. Kitts not only men, skilled men, but also machinery to help them build roads in St. Kitts. So if you're up in St. Peter's and you have new roads up there, say thanks to the NIA that our investment in equipment, our investment in training people has now resulted in those people and that equipment being put to use to help our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that we should be proud of. It shows when a government is committed to sustainable development and putting people at the center. When we have been accused of all manner of things, we were quietly investing. We bought brand new paving machine. We bought equipment that allows us to take off the top layer of the asphalt, mix it, and put it back on. We have invested in training, as again I have just indicated. Right now we have people in Kentucky being trained. More than that, we have come to the assistance of St. Kitts in building their roads. We couldn't do that if we didn't have the equipment. Brand new milling machine, brand new paver, made available to our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. And our manpower. Because we said to them, we have trained our guys, so let our guys operate our equipment. So the guys went over. Danny, Buju, all of our team have been helping. And I believe Nevision should feel proud and Kittishan should feel proud, because it shows what can happen when you spend wisely and you invest in the necessary infrastructure, both in terms of equipment and in terms of manpower, that we have what it takes to get the job done. Let me now go to education. The Ministry of Education has asked me to convey their profound sadness on the passing of Miss Lisa Lee, who I would have mentioned earlier, but also on the passing of Miss Sharon Hamilton, who passed on January 26. She served as a teacher at the Cecily Brown Integrated School and worked tirelessly to shape the lives of our students within the special needs population. We encourage members of the public to remember all of these families in their prayers. We have been, ladies and gentlemen, incredibly touched, incredibly grateful to the Winsong Foundation. They have just invested just over $500,000 EC dollars in the purchase of a total of 1,325 desks and 1,325 chairs to benefit all of our public schools on the island of Nevis. We have taken the first shipment of 995 desks and 845 chairs, and we expect the others to be delivered to us shortly. Those have been manufactured in Canada, and already, I'm told, the Charleston Secondary School and the Gingerland Secondary School have been outfitted. We are doing a needs assessment at the various schools to ensure that the schools with the greatest need benefit from this new furniture. That donation represents the most significant investment in furniture for our children that we have seen in perhaps the last 15 or 20 years. And I want to go on record to thank the Winsong Foundation. They have made significant donations to us in the past, including 6 coaster buses to serve as school buses, 6, music instruments and devices over the past 10 years. They provided us with steel pans, provided us with an entire suite of musical equipment so that we can introduce our music in schools. They provide us with laptops and devices for our teachers and our students. And they have continued to make a significant investment in our young people and in our education sector. And we say thank you to the Winsong Foundation. Yesterday, we attended a small but in my view significant ceremony, and that was the reopening of the Charlestown Preschool right there next to the cultural complex in Nevis. I think it's significant because while they say it was a renovation, it's actually a new school that we have given to the children there. Those children had been housed at the Alberta Payne Community Center while the construction was ongoing. And, you know, while I heard some criticisms about it was taking too long, they say that good things take time. And I was very pleased when I went there yesterday. The person who was in charge of the supervisor was very brilliant in her praise because she said that it had made their lives there so much better. The roof was replaced, kitchens, bathrooms, and office spaces were expanded, and they said that the refurbishing addressed issues the school had for a number of years. It certainly reflects the NIA's commitment to providing quality education. The 36 students that are there now and 10 staff members were delighted to return to their new school. The new environment sets the stage for a brighter tomorrow. That is their motto for the students of the Charlestown Preschool. The Charlestown Preschool, I'm told, is the oldest of its kind. It's 41 years. And so these renovations, this rebuild, was really timely and necessary. I want to congratulate 5 schools that are celebrating their anniversaries this month. Gingerland Secondary School celebrating its 52nd anniversary. Elizabeth Pemberton Primary celebrates its 17th anniversary. The Violet O. Nichols Primary celebrates its 25th anniversary. And the St. Thomas's Primary celebrates its 54th anniversary. The Nevis International School has its 11th anniversary. We congratulate them all. Let me turn quickly to sports. This is sports season, so you'll hear from time to time us talking about sports. To date, in the month of January, several schools have hosted various sporting activities. St. James Primary hosted a road relay festival. Charlestown Secondary hosted a relay festival. And as part of its 17th anniversary celebrations, the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary will host its annual relay festival on Sunday, 2nd February at the Nevis Athletic Stadium at 1:30. 8 schools and 2 track clubs out of Nevis and 2 schools and 1 track club out of St. Kitts will participate. Admission, $5 children, $10 adults, $15 for your vehicle pass. Some great news. CONCACAF Under-17 Women World Qualifiers. St. Kitts Nevis team will participate in the Under-17 Girls World Cup qualifiers in Nicaragua from January 27 to February 1st. We extend congratulations to the entire team, but allow me to single out Angenique Newton, Ashanique Romney, Adelisi Garcia, and Kenya Virgo from Nevis, who was selected to represent the Federation in these important matches. St. Kitts and Nevis will come up against Nicaragua and also against Jamaica. The Leeward Island Hurricanes, congratulations to Shelton Forbes, Colin Archibald, and Cameron Pennyfeather for being named in the Leeward Islands Hurricanes squad for the first match of the CW 4-day championship, which starts tomorrow in Antigua. A very important announcement for those who love cricket. The Department of Sports has revamped its cricket development program after a thorough evaluation in 2024. As part of the new direction, one of the priority areas in this new focus is the mastery of the fundamentals at the primary school level. So we are now introducing a new Cricket in Schools initiative as a prelude to the launch of the department's new Cricket Academy, which comes on stream in April. Carifta qualifiers. Let me congratulate Miss Kezia Phillip of the Gingerland Secondary School and Faze Track Club on becoming the Federation's very first athlete to qualify for the 2025 Carifta Games scheduled for Trinidad in April. Kezia surpassed the qualifying standard in the Under-17 female shot put event at the St. Kitts Nevis Athletics Powerade Classic recently held at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Also in swimming, let me congratulate Troy Nisbet and Skylar Connor, who have been selected as the Federation's representatives to compete at Carifta in swimming. I believe that we are definitely doing some great things, and I'm proud of our youth. Nomination is currently open for the Excellence in Sports Award. We encourage persons to nominate any young person you know who has excelled in sport. Nomination forms can be collected at the Department of Youth, upstairs the Reliable Motors Mini Complex. The deadline, February 21st. Let me move on to a number of other matters. Culturama is coming, July 24th to August 5th. And they've asked me to ask you, or to tell you, that this year's registration for the Miss Culture Swimwear and Mr. Cool competition, interest has heightened tremendously with an overwhelming number of entries. Both competitions now have 10 applications each. This would mean that we would have to go through some kind of elimination process. However, for the Miss Culture Queen pageant, we're still looking for additional persons to fill the quota. The deadline has therefore been extended to February 14, Valentine's Day. So we ask you to pick up your form at the Philip St. Jean building adjacent to Maud Cross, or visit www.culturamanivis.com. You should return your forms by February 14th. I want to comment on another matter before I open the floor to the press. We all, I think, stunned to learn that a boat, the owner, Franklin Daniel, an elderly gentleman, a senior, who at over 70 is still doing fishing and keeping himself active, that his boat was stolen along with his engine, and his family sprang into action in advertising and asking for help. We are now told that the boat was found, but the engine appears to have been taken, and that has not been yet recovered. Police are doing their investigations, but of course we continue to encourage our people not to engage in this type of activity. So Daniel is an old man, one of our seniors, and somebody who even at his age continues to ply his trade, his vocation as a fisherman. And for somebody to callously take his boat and take his engine, it's really unconscionable. It's unforgivable. And so we are hopeful that we can recover the engine, and the NIA, of course, will lend all the assistance possible in this regard. An important notice for our fishers: all fishing vessel owners who have not yet completed their vessel re-inspections are requested to contact the Department of Marine Resources to schedule an appointment. Fishers who are concerned about expired flares and are unable to acquire new ones due to supply shortages will be granted an extended period until 31st January to obtain replacements. However, your vessel must still undergo a re-inspection to allow inspectors to assess the condition of the expired flares on boats. Notice to all fishers and owners of registered fishing vessels: expired vessel licenses in accordance with Part 8 Registration Certification License, Section 63, 1A and 2 of the Fisheries, Aquaculture and Marine Resources Act, which states no person shall engage in any of the following activities without a valid and applicable license or authorization issued in accordance with this act. All fishers with expired vessel licenses are hereby advised to contact the Department of Marine Resources or the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force Coast Guard to arrange vessel inspection required for the 2025 license renewal. Department of Marine Resources inspections Wednesdays and Fridays between 8 and 4 p.m. Coast Guard inspections Monday to Friday between 8 and 4 p.m. Please note that failure to renew your vessel license will result in enforcement actions if you are found engaging in fishing activities without a valid license. I want our people, please pay attention and be responsible. Don't wait until the Coast Guard apprehend you, or you run yourself into problem to start to call somebody, tell somebody you need help, come and rescue you. Please do the right thing. I end, ladies and gentlemen, with the good news that as we encourage our people to come back home, as we encourage those at home to invest, that the NIA has purchased some 36 acres of land in the Ghana's estate area. These lands will be subdivided and made available to Nevisians at home and abroad for purchase. The Ghana's estate area, members of the press, is just above the VOJN primary school, up in the hills there, where we have the University Heights development. Beautiful views, constant beautiful breezes, and I believe that the lands are premium, and we will therefore try to set a price that persons can afford. But we expect, particularly for young professionals, we're encouraging our people to own a piece of the rock. I know the tendency when you get your job is to run and buy a car, but a car depreciates from day one. A piece of land appreciates from day one. So make some wise decisions and help yourself and your family to build some wealth. That's important. And so those 36 acres, you'll hear more. And I want to commend the Honorable Deputy Premier Eric Evelyn and his team, because they've worked hard at this in order to bring this to fruition. I will leave matters there then and take now your questions and comments if you have any for me. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mr. Brantley, and good morning to those who are present
Good morning
here this
to you.
morning. Mr. Brantley, can we get an update on the airport expansion project, and when will public consultations resume? Question 2, when exactly will work resume on the hospital wing? Does the government have a potential completion date? Number 3, Mr. Brantley, as Minister of Public Utilities, why are churches that are basically faith-based organizations and NGOs listed as commercial instead of residential when it comes to bill payments, for example, electricity bills? And a few Sundays ago, you made a Facebook post of animals such as sheep or goats being seen on the Mondo track. And you urged the owners to cease and desist from letting their animals roam free. Now, my question is, what does the government have in place to keep this from happening? Also, homeowners such as myself and throughout Nevis have been seeing an increase in animals on our compounds, such as cattle, goats, sheep, etc., destroying crops, personal items, etc. What can the government do to assist? I know that the Ministry of Agriculture has sent out notices in the past warning owners of these animals, but it seems to have not been working. So what can be done? And that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. Airport expansion project and public consultations, we will hope to be able to provide an update on that shortly. I think we're now in the process of finalizing the property transfers. We have secured a loan for that purpose, and we hope that we'll be in a position to do those payouts very shortly. I've been saying that for some time, but we know how these financial houses work. The last report we got from our bankers is that they had some final process to resolve, and then we hope that the funds will be made available. Once those funds are available, we can then do what is the most critical first step, which is to buy the lands that we need for the expansion. In terms of further public consultations, I'll have to check on that. Of course, we've already done 3 public consultations on this airport project. I will have to find out whether or not there will be a final consultation. I'm not yet certain. But the last one we did was at Pond Hill Community Center. That was just before Christmas of last year. When does work resume on the hospital, and do I have an end date? The short answer is that I cannot respond to that yet because our assessment is ongoing. We have engaged various experts and individuals, construction firms, who are doing their final assessments, and we therefore hope to come back to you with accurate information about a start once they've done the assessment, and they will also be able to give us a sense of what the finish date is going to be like. But I'm reluctant to say we're going to start next month, and when it doesn't happen, then that of course, leads to further chatter in the public sphere. So let us do what we need to do. Let us complete what we need to do. We are waiting now some reports, and once we have those, we'll be able to tell you definitively when we will restart. Churches listed as commercial and not residential. Well, arguably they're neither, because I don't know that anybody lives in the church, so they're not residential. Commercial, it looks like we only have two categories. You're either commercial or residential for utilities. Interestingly, this took me by surprise, because I've never had this representation made to me by any of the churches. So this is surprising to me in terms of how they are listed. The truth is that as government, we have provided considerable support to faith-based organizations, duty-free vehicles, duty-free for materials. In fact, the Methodist Church in Charlestown, a very historic building, they're doing a renovation, and the government partnered with them significantly to make that possible. So we are very open to partner with our churches, but this one took me off guard. I'll have to look into it because I am not aware that they are categorized as commercial and not residential. What does the government have in place to prevent animals going on the Mondo track? It looks like we'll have to invest in some upgraded fencing. It looks like we will have to invest in some walled fencing in parts that didn't have wall fencing. Of course, the entire property is fenced, but it seems like just having the zinc fence leads to some mischief. I said in that same post that I was advised that farmers were cutting the fence to allow the animals in. Some farmers called me and protested and said they were not cutting the fence, it's the animals that were forcing their way through the fence. Whatever the position is, the result is the same. And it comes back, Ms. Budgeon, to the argument that I have been holding constant on. And I don't hear any other politicians with it, any other leaders with it. But it comes back to our people being responsible. The difficulty we have on Nevis is that everybody seems to feel that their interests and their interests alone are what matters. So the farmer is going to simply open his gates in the morning and let the animals go. And those animals roam about. You said they end up in your yard. They end up wherever they end up. They cause accidents on the road. All of this. And when we said to the farmers, you have a duty to be responsible, they respond angrily. But if farming is their business, if this is their livelihood, then they have a duty. You work at Von Radio. If Von Radio needs an antenna replaced or it needs a circuit board replaced, that is the responsibility of Von Radio. It can't be the responsibility of the government. And we keep saying to our people, be responsible. We're prepared to work with you, but be responsible. You just let your animals roam all across the island. I saw a video the other day with a whole marching band of sheep and goats coming down Main Street, Charlestown. They belong to somebody. And our people just continue to act as if their rights are more important than the rights of others. It's a selfish approach, and I continue to encourage our people to do the right thing. You say the government, and that is sometimes a difficulty because everybody, Ms. Budgeon, comes back to the government. Every problem that our community encounters, they call somebody in the government. But as a property owner, you have rights as a property owner. So if people, animals damaging your property, go to your local lawyer and cause them to be responsible. Because you see, so many of us are being violated, our properties are being violated, and we simply keep calling agriculture, keep calling the premier, keep calling the government. But you have rights. So I suggest to some of you, call your lawyer. And maybe through that mechanism, some people may start to be a bit more responsible. Our farmers need land to farm, especially our animal farmers. And the government has tried where we have to provide land. All of those farmers in the Prospect area are on government land. But our land is limited. In fact, you members of the press and the public would know that the majority of lands in Nevis are held in private hands. And that is one of the things we also need to start to look at critically as we talk about developing this island over the next 15, 20, 30 years. Our land use. And the fact that some people, some, not even divisions, are holding thousands of acres of land just locked up, doing nothing with it. If you know Nevis, cast your attention along the south coast, for example, of the island. From you leave Long Point, going towards Gingerland. What you see over there? Nothing. But 90+% of those lands are privately held. You go up there, you have Hog Valley, you have Mount Lily estates, you have Hicks estate, you have Montpelier estate. All of these estates, all around the island, tied up, owned, but nothing being done with them. Land is only an asset when you could put it to use. And especially in a country that needs land. We need land for agriculture. We need land for food security. That's the kind of conversation we need to start to have. And so farmers who are serious about farming should be looking to see where they can get land, secure that land to have the animals. Not just open their pen in the morning and say, see, and send the animals on the road. That cannot continue, and it's not sustainable. We have to look in terms of agriculture to introducing the pound system. But even when you have the pound, you have to catch the animals to take them to the pound. And that, for some homeowners, is a problem. So, what do I encourage you to do, Ms. Budgeon? Continue to report the matter, obviously, but also, if you can, talk to your local solicitor. A lot of them in town now. You could find one. And have them try and address the matter legally for you as well. And if every homeowner were to do that, maybe our farmers would start to say, let us be more prudent and responsible in what we're doing. Any more questions for me?
Okay, me again. So the government is not impounding and charging these same owners anymore?
Government doesn't impound, you know. People impound. Mm-hmm. You would have to catch those animals and bring them to the pound. Mm-hmm. So if you can do that, then I'm saying that the government is reintroducing that facility, right? That is the difficulty because some people don't have the capacity to catch these animals themselves.
Correct.
And so therein lies the difficulty. But the way that it usually would work is that you who are being trespassed upon, you would catch the animals or call somebody to catch them for you and take them to the pound. And then the farmer would have to pay in order to get them back. That is the way the pound system works.
Okay. Well, but what about reimbursement in terms of catching?
So the pound system, as I understand it, the pound system should deal with that. So whatever the farmer pays to retrieve their animals from the pound should assist in defraying those expenses of catching them, as the case may be. But those in agriculture will be better able to explain the system, but I do know that we're looking at reintroducing it and to get a space where those animals can be housed until such time as their owners come for them. But something has to be done. It cannot continue in this vein. It cannot continue the way it's continuing. We see dead animals on the road sometimes. It's really untenable. And as I said, our people need to be responsible. And I said to our farmers all the time, because the butchers complain that when they go to the same farmers, the farmers have no animals to sell. We're sorry, we don't have any animals. We don't have none available for sale. But yet these animals are on the road and they're all over, right? I have farmers telling me foolishness like they like to watch them, right? They're raising them because they like to see them. What do you mean you like to see them? If you know, what are you doing? If you're raising pets, then I could understand that. It's your pet. But if you're running a business, right, then you have to apply business-like approaches to your business. And we need our farmers, of course. We need them, but we also need them to be responsible and to partner with the government and with the public, not just with the government.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Premier. Andre Huey, SK Newsline.
Morning.
There's a few questions. in your opening remarks, you spoke about the new agency that has been set up for the financial services here on Nevis.
Not yet. We're setting it up.
It's setting it up,
yes.
okay. In terms of, if you could just speak to, maybe just provide some information, figures if possible, on the financial contribution of this sector to the economy of Nevis and how important it is to Nevis. And how resilient is it? Because, of course, there's so many shocks, international shocks. We see new policies from the new president of the United States. From time to time, we also hear Europe implementing new measures and new procedures for that sector. So how resilient is it, and in a competitive environment dealing with other islands in the Caribbean that offer the same service? The CBI, Citizenship by Investment Program. What is the state of projects here on Nevis, CBI projects? Are there any new projects coming on stream? What happens to or what's happening with the old projects? I know you had announced some time ago that there was supposed to be a new hotel, or new hotels coming to Nevis. Where are we with that? And on the hospital project, now I know you just answered Ms. Bludgeon's question about the update on the project itself. However, if we look at the budget estimates, we notice that there, in that particular area, the establishment of the hospital new wing, we've seen increases budgeted for that particular project. I think in 2023, according to this estimate, it said 289,090, and then we saw 8 million for 2024, and we're looking at 12 million for 2025. How is the money allocated? If we're seeing increases in that budget allocation, was it the money used for if the project is not progressing?
Okay. Let me start where you left off, Mr. Huey, and it comes back to an understanding of the budgetary process. The fact that you see a provision in the line item does not mean that that money was spent. So it is merely a projection that if we are to get this project going, this is what we anticipate we will spend this year on the project. So where you saw 8 million, that money was not spent. So we are anticipating that if we can get this project going as we planned this year, that the anticipated spend will be $12 million. That is where we are in relation to the hospital project. So I don't want you to go away with the misconception that those monies were spent but somehow not on the hospital. The budgetary process, as I tried to explain earlier, is simply a process where we project what we anticipate to do. And as I've indicated, we don't do it if we can't find the money to do it within our debt management strategy. So I want to make that very clear. Old projects, new projects, citizenship by investment. The CBI program continues to chug along. There are some projects in Nevis that have stalled and have been stalled for a very long time. I can think of Tamarind Cove, which is a good example. They have been there. They were supposed to be doing a hotel, resort, and marina development. I am not at this point sure what's happening on that project, but that project is by the Sea Bridge, as you know. There are one or two other projects that were started but not completed. It's not unique to Nevis because on St. Kitts you have quite a few of those projects as well. I believe that that is a matter that ought to attract national attention because at the end of the day the CBI program is run out of Bastille. We really in Nevis have no control over that particular program. And so I would anticipate that in time we'll have to deal with that. In relation to new hotels, I'm aware that there are some projects now that are before the planning department for approval. They're going through that process. And I am hopeful that I will be in short order able to make some announcements, not only of some new projects, but of actual groundbreaking that we anticipate that we will have. We have been working feverishly behind the scenes since last year to attract new investment and new projects. And I would have last summer traveled to Europe where I had some very good meetings, and I would have since then engaged significantly with proposed investors. And I anticipate, Mr. Huey, that we'll have some good news for the people of Nevis in short order. Financial services, you ask how resilient. My short answer is, I think, very resilient. Why do I say that? Because just last year we celebrated 40 years of financial services being offered on the island of Nevis, during which time we would have weathered various storms from the OECD, from the Financial Action Task Force, from the EU, from the US. We have been put on lists of uncooperative jurisdictions. Each time we have worked with the international community. And so the point where we are now is that St. Kitts and Nevis are compliant, largely compliant. I think that is our rating. which is the same rating, I'm told, as the United States of America. And we have continued to cooperate with our partners in relation to the global fight against money laundering, against terrorist financing, against illicit flows of money. So we have, I believe, done what we need to do as a responsible partner in the international community. Financial services is growing. I think in my statement, if I can look back so I can give you accurate numbers, I did indicate that insofar as the sector is concerned, we would have got directly from registrations and renewals $16.88 million in 2024. And that's up some $1.29 million from the year before. So we are moving in the right direction, but I still believe that more can be done. And that is why we are setting up Nevis Finance to take us now to the next level. I hope I've answered your questions. And so, anyone else? Ms. Hewlett?
Good morning, Premier. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
I would have seen that you spent your birthday patronizing local establishments, spending money out of your pocket, you and several friends, it looked like, rather than flying off to keep a bash somewhere overseas. So kudos to that.
I'm not even sure what that means.
Questions.
Yeah,
it's good you're supporting the local economy.
Yes,
Very
right.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's switch real quickly. Is there a mold problem at the Alexandra Hospital? Also, we'd have seen some talk about there not being medication available, basic medication available at the hospital. The few times I've gone to the pharmacy, I've seen everybody got their medication. So maybe that's one instance or that's fabrication, I'm not sure. Fiscal responsibility, debt sustainability have been tenets of your administration. Against that backdrop, can you explain a singular item of debt revealed in the 2025 budget that amounted to some $30 million? Safety and security is paramount to the development of any country. How does Nevis stand in relation to crime and violence? You mentioned investing in young people and, very importantly, giving them the opportunity to work and lead and use those skills to contribute to the betterment of this island and the Federation. However, recently, a politician on Nevis made some unfortunate remarks, basically disparaging the cadre of young doctors at the hospital, the Alexandra Hospital. What message do you think that sends to our young people who want to go off and study to become young professionals in this country? I know the returning nationals' diaspora investment policy was only launched, I think, a week ago. Have you gotten any feedback so far? And that's it.
Ms. Hewlett, thank you very much. Let me start by dealing with the issue of mold. Mold is a concern. It is a concern because more and more we're getting reports of mold in our various government buildings. In fact, I think at the federal level, they actually had a consultation recently on that whole issue of mold. We have been dealing with it especially at our older buildings. Many of the buildings in Nevis were built in a different era, and we have, since them being built, grafted onto them things like air conditioning and all of that, which creates an atmosphere, we're told, for moisture, and wherever there's moisture, there's a possibility of mold. The specific question as to the hospital, is there a mold problem? I'm not sure how to answer it, because on one hand, yes, wherever there's a mold problem. On the other hand, I can say that the situation at the hospital was that, based on the advice from the Ministry of Health, we discovered mold in some basement areas of the hospital, areas that used to host things like the lab and, I believe, records. Upon that discovery, we would have evacuated those areas, and the lab, as we now know, is relocated across the street on Government Road, and records are located elsewhere, and those areas were essentially cordoned off. So those areas are not in use, either by hospital staff or by the public, and certainly not accessible to patients. Unfortunately, on this island, there are some who continue to try to do whatever they can to create political mischief. And so someone, no doubt, a worker at the hospital, would have taken photos of that area and videos of that area, and those were broadcast to the world and were advertised to the world as a mold problem at Alexandria, which of course creates alarm in the public because Alexandria is our main hospital. So no doubt our people would have felt that the whole hospital was riddled with mold and therefore it is unsafe. And alarm and panic is exactly what I think those social media posts and those mischief makers who engage in that were seeking to do. The truth is, Ms. Hewlett, that that issue in the basement area, as I said, was identified. We took proactive steps to vacate the area, and we engaged PAHO since last year, Pan American Health Organization, which worked alongside our health authorities here to come up with a plan and with recommendations. We are waiting for the final report, that's the last I was told, and once we have that, we will then move to implement those recommendations and therefore to remedy the problem downstairs. The Alexandria Hospital is not the only place, as I've said, that we are finding mold. We have a situation at our courthouse. Again, a stone building designed in a different era when there was no air conditioning and which expects the breeze, the winds, to blow through freely. We've introduced air conditioning and that moisture is creating problems for us. But what I've said to my team, and the cabinet has taken a decision, that we will no longer react to mold. We will no longer be reactive, we will be proactive. So we are now developing in each ministry a mold containment and control program. That will entail in each ministry having regular testing. Let me go back. Having regular cleaning and the regular testing, and making the test results available to those being asked to work in the government. We're going to publish the results essentially, because there is also a suspicion that some individuals may be using mold as a reason for them to be away from work. Bear in mind that, as I said, mold is everywhere. So sometimes people are being impacted negatively by mold, and they immediately say to the government, it's the building that I work in. But it could be their home. It could be the gym that they go to. It could be somewhere, because mold is everywhere. So the reality is that we have to be cautious, but at the same time we have a duty as government to ensure that our buildings are safe and the work environment is safe. So we are now going to go on a track of cleaning regularly, testing regularly. So not wait until people complain, but we continue now with a program of periodic cleaning and periodic testing, and that should be put in place. I think I can say that at the courthouse, we also have invested in humidifiers, things of that nature, that we are going to think. We have done remedial work there already, but we are now going to do an active session of cleaning and testing. Cleaning and testing. That will become the regimen as we try to keep our people safe from that challenge of mold. Medication available at the hospital, again, Ms. Hewlett, efforts at mischief. The hospital cannot stock every medication every day. We have a supply system where we go to the OECS supplies network based in St. Lucia, and our medication comes usually through St. Kitts because they're the entity that orders. It is quite normal for the hospital in Nevis to get medication sent over from St. Kitts. And in fact, I'm told that if St. Kitts runs short, it is also normal for them to check with us if we have extra to send to them. It's one health system at the end of the day. The problem again you have is that if somebody goes to the hospital and they need a particular drug, and that particular drug is not available at that moment, you then hear this hue and cry, hospital don't have medication. That is not the case. It's simply an issue of us sometimes being out of a particular drug for a particular period of time. But whenever that happens, it means that we have run short and we get supplies from St. Kitts just as they get supplies from us, or it means that our order from St. Lucia might somehow have been delayed. But there is no crisis. In fact, my health authorities and the Minister of Health does not advise the Cabinet of any difficulty in relation to medication. And I'm sure, Ms. Hewlett, that if you are like me, needing medication from time to time, you go to the various pharmacies in town, and many of them sometimes tell you they don't have what you're looking for. Some people have to call 3, 4 different pharmacies to find the drug that they need on that day. So doesn't mean a crisis. It just means that on that particular moment in time, that specific drug may not be available, but we will be able to supply it because once it's a part of the drugs that we supply. The other problem is sometimes, again, people who need specific drugs, which may be unusual, because all of us are different. So sometimes people have an unusual sickness, illness, and the drug that they require, because we don't see that often, we may not stock that particular drug. So all of these are considerations. And some feel that they must just go up to the hospital, I need drug A, and they must say, yes, this drug A is here. It doesn't always work that way. So again, I encourage our people to be reasonable and practical, but there's no crisis at all in that regard. Fiscal debt sustainability. Before I deal with that, you asked me safety and security. I'm proud to say and to congratulate Superintendent Carty and his team that based on this year-end statistics, we've seen a double-digit drop in reported crimes on the island of Nevis. We're down 11%, and I believe that Carty and the Division C, the Nevis Division, that they should be commended. I want to commend, of course, our Commissioner as well and his team, but I believe that this speaks well for us as an island. We are now almost coming to the end of January. We have not yet heard of any unfortunate incidents of crime, particularly violent crime. And I'm asking our people, because at the end of the day, it's not the police that are committing crimes, it's our people that are committing crimes. And so I encourage our people, again, to be responsible. Our young men especially, who have been disproportionately impacted by violent crime, I'm asking you to be responsible and to stay away from crime. Nevis is growing, jobs are available, things are happening. Put yourself in a position to make money. Instead of making war on people, go out there, find a job, and make money. Young people, opportunity to lead, that has been the mantra of my government. I'm very proud of our track record. As I say, we're not only training people, but when they come back, they can be assured they'll be given opportunity in this, the land of their birth. I too thought the comments about the young doctors was terribly unfortunate. To suggest to young people who have gone away, some of them have spent 4, 5, 6 years studying to become doctors. They're now back. When they come back, they're not put to act as doctors immediately. They have to go through I think we call it a refreshment or something, a program for a year before they go on staff. And to say to them that you're uncomfortable with them and that you don't want an emergency setting for them to be looking to Google, it was terribly, terribly disrespectful. And I am 56 years old now, so I am no longer a young person. I want to say to our populace that there has to be room for the young people in the country. When our people go away and equip themselves and come back, we ought not as a policy to be telling them, go sit down in the back of the bus. There's no room for you. A lot of these people who are launching the most vociferous attacks at our young people seem to forget that they too were once young. They too were once young. When Dr. Bartlett, I will call her name because she's the one who made the comment, and she's a public figure and deputy leader of the NRP. When Dr. Bartlett came back years ago as a veterinarian, she, I believe, was the first female to be trained. And we're proud of her. And in vision, she was given the opportunity to lead the veterinary clinic. And she held that opportunity up to the ripe age of 60. That is when she retired. In the interim, we had trained a young man to take over. And she got extension after extension after extension. Went 5 years beyond the stated retirement. All the while this young man was waiting his opportunity. Well, what are you telling us? that the young man who went away and trained and has come back and is qualified just like you were qualified, he shouldn't get a chance to lead? And is that the message that we should send to our young people? Go away and study, get a scholarship, borrow money, but when you come back, don't bother think that you're going to get any opportunity to lead. You must practice, learn how to drive. Because when you come back, you don't know what you're doing. That's the messaging that they've been sending to young people. That is unacceptable. And I don't care who you support. I don't care whether you're NRP, CCM, or who. We must be able, as government and as a people, to see our young people as assets, to harness the energy and the ideas. The doctor who is 40 years experience, God bless him or her, and we thank him or her for their service to us. But the young doctor is more fair with modern techniques and modern skills. Medicine, like law, like every profession, engineering, keeps moving. So having the young doctors infuse their energy and enthusiasm and training helps us. And I was so happy to see the young doctors push back. I see them publish a photo of all of them, and I was so surprised to see what 12 young doctors. And as somebody in one of the comments pointed out, poor people, children. Miss Hewlett, none of those young people, I could say, come from any wealthy families here in Nevis. Poor people, children, who got an opportunity, took the opportunity. When those young people explained to me what they endure in Cuba, the hardships because of the difficulties in Cuba due to this reckless and criminal embargo that Cuba continues to experience from the United States. Our young people go there and struggle. For them to have that commitment to go, struggle, endure, learn in Spanish, which is not their native tongue. And then rather than going off to some place in the world because doctors are shortage globally, they said, I want to come back to Nevis, the land of my birth, to contribute. And when you come back, people who want to lead this island are telling them, there's no room for you. That can't be right. And for me, as an island and as a people, we need to be able to condemn these things when they happen and say that cannot be, that backward thinking cannot be the case. Some of these commentators, I look at them and I say, well, all of them are pensioners. All of them already collecting Social Security. But yet they're fighting for position. They're telling you. You know what I found was most curious about Dr. Bartlett's comment? And her comment isn't new, because these comments, the NRP keeps making them. But what I found most interesting is Dr. Bartlett offered herself to the people of Nevis to lead them, to be in government, to make decisions for them. And if she's so preoccupied with experience, I would ask the question, what was hers? Because she applied to be in government to make decisions for all of us. No experience anywhere that was relevant to what she applied to do. Thankfully, the people told her, no, try again, another time. But I just want to make that point because you seem to have one standard for yourself and a different standard for young people. And so I don't quibble over it. I just say that these comments are unfortunate, and I would have thought that the leader of the NRP would have by now come out with a statement to condemn these comments and these attacks on our young people. Unfortunately, she has a comment on everything but that. And so we are left with these very unfortunate comments, and I regret, but I want our young people to understand that we in government, we who you have put here, we will give you those opportunities for training, we'll give you those opportunities to access scholarships and go to university, and when you come back, we will support your move into leadership positions in this island. Because I ask the question, if not you, then who? It is not that a Nevision is going to lead every organization in Nevis. Sometimes you need a skill set that's not available. But where we have people that are available, that meet the criteria, and that can perform, I say give them that opportunity. Because all of us, I came across a thought that I posted on social media. It said every expert today was a beginner at some point. And that's the truth. You can't become an expert if you don't have the opportunity. Ms. Budgeon, I see you're standing probably to ask me some further question. But if you can give me an opportunity, please, because Ms. Hewlett raised an issue about debt. And we had a bit of a shock that we had to announce in the last budget, and that had to do with the Rest Haven property, where we saw about a new debt of about $30 million. Not that the Rest Haven issue is a new issue, but as I tried to explain in the budget, we were booking the debt for the first time. That's why it showed up when it showed up, because we had finally reached a point, and that debt had ballooned to about $30 million. Since then, I've heard a lot being said about the Rest Haven. And the Nevis Reformation Party, the main opposition party on the island, they have been out there saying things and trying to make it appear as if this debt is somehow due to the recklessness or mismanagement of my government. And so I believe it's important that we set the record straight. Rest Haven Limited was a company that owned a parcel of land in Nevis. That land was mortgaged to Kishu Chandaramani from Rams, who is now deceased of blessed memory. The government of Nevis, in accordance with the Nevis Land Acquisition Ordinance, compulsorily acquired the property. I want to stop there, because I've heard comments being made that a price was agreed and all of that. If you agree a price, there's no need for compulsory acquisition. Compulsory acquisition, or eminent domain as it's referred to in the US, comes about when you need land for public purpose and the owners are not willing to sell or are not willing to sell you at the correct market price. And so you have the right as government to compulsorily acquire. But the law says that if you take that route, you have to compensate the people for their property. So the NRP government, and I brought the notice with me, that was in the Observer newspaper. The Observer newspaper of Friday, October 26, 2007, was where the notification, public notice of acquisition, was published. So let us put this falsehood about a negotiated position with Rest Haven to rest. Because if there was an agreement between the NRP-led government and Rest Haven to buy that land, there would be no need for a public compulsory acquisition of that land. So that's the first point I want to make. As I said, the land had been mortgaged to Mr. Chandaramani. That mortgage led his executor, a chap called Manhudas Davidas Chandaramani, to file an action against Rest Haven, but also against the NIA. That action was filed saying that Rest Haven owed Chandaramani money and that there was a violation of Chandaramani's rights because of how the assessment had been dealt with. The matter came on before Madam Justice Williams, and the executor lost the case. The executor appealed, and that went up to the Court of Appeal, and that appeal was dismissed. The executor then appealed further to the Privy Council. All this time, the government is in limbo in relation to these lands and the payment and the settlement over these lands. So let me give you the chronology, members of the press. On the 6th of August 2007, there was a valuation done by Mr. Mansfield Nisbet from a company called Ace Designs of those lands at US $5,662,800. 6th of August 2007, CCM got back into government. Lost government in 2006, got back into government in 2013. So we were not in government. Valuation US $5.6 million. On the 8th of October 2007, the NRP-led administration published their notice of compulsory acquisition in the local Observer newspaper. On the 26th of October 2007, the notice was further published, that is, you have to do it twice, so in the Observer newspaper. On the 13th of December 2007, there was a valuation done by one Hastings Daniel, now of blessed memory, and he put the value at $3 million. He does not, however, state in the document what currency. So far we have two valuations, one done by the owners of US $5,662,800 on the 6th of August 2007. Second valuation done on the 13th of December 2007 by one Hastings Daniel for $3 million. We don't know which currency. On 23rd April 2008, there was a valuation done by Douglas Surveying of US $5,232,000 for the property. On the 26th of September 2013, now, you see I've jumped now 5 years to 2013. Because what happened, members of the press, is that between the time when the property was acquired in 2007, under the NRP-led administration, and 2013 when government changed, they never settled the amount that was due for compensation. When we got back into government in 2013, we had to go to a board of assessment, which is a requirement under the law when there's a dispute as to what value should be paid for the property. And the board of assessment chaired by Thomas Astafan, now Thomas Astafan, King's Counsel out of Anguilla. They awarded and said that the property was valued at US $6,362,313.88. They ordered costs against the government, and they ordered that this money, that US $6,362,316.88, attract interest at the rate of 6% retroactive to the time of acquisition. I hope members of the press you're understanding what I'm saying. So the 6% became payable from 2007. Remember, as I said, that the NRP neither had it assessed nor paid for. So between 2007 when they acquired to 2013 when the government changed, they had not done anything further in relation to this. All the while, interest is accruing. In 2013, finally, the Board of Assessors, not the government, determined that the value of the West Haven property was US $6,362,316.88. One of you can work out that for me, but I think on my rudimentary maths, that's nearly 20 million EC dollars. And then they said 6% interest from 2007. We then had the litigation that I referred to, because the Rams heirs sued. That went to the High Court, that went to the Court of Appeal, that ended up at the Privy Council. It wasn't until 2023 that the heirs of Mr. Shandaramani withdrew the claim in the Privy Council. And that was as a result of settlement discussions that we had had. And that is why the total owed for the debt could not have been finalized. It could not have been paid because there were disputes surrounding this since 2013 and following. We finally came to an agreement after all the court proceedings. We couldn't tell Mr. Shandaramani's heirs not to sue. They were in their right to do what they thought was best to protect the interests of the estate. They lost in the High Court, they lost in the Court of Appeal, and they had every right to go to the Privy Council. In fact, the order that they were seeking was that the amount owed to them be paid out of the consolidated fund. in Nevis. The court disagreed up at the Court of Appeal level, and the matter was pending at the Privy Council. So we were, but while all of this is going on, interest keeps accumulating on the money. And so that is why it is only when we finally came to a settlement with all parties that we as the government were able to come to the public and say, this now is the debt. And so I want you to understand that chronology very carefully. When we look at the, and I have a copy of it here, the publication to compulsorily take this property by the then administration, you know what it says? It says that the property is to be acquired for touristic development. That is the language. It is to be acquired for public purpose, touristic development. We have, since we have been in government, searched high and low. We have found absolutely nothing to say what the plan was, what the touristic development was going to be. Was it going to be a hotel, a marina, a casino, a park? We have found nothing in the records. And so to this date, with all the chatter, nobody has been able to say what development was supposed to go there that would have prompted the government of the day to put themselves in, if I can use a colloquial expression, in this antness. Because by the time they acquired, that property was already abandoned. In 2007, remember, the property got blown away in the hurricanes of 1989, I think it was Hugo. And so the property was already abandoned in 2007. The government of the day decided to go and take up the people property, say for touristic development. Now they're saying, I see something where they say, oh, there was an agreement to pay $3 million. Where is that agreement? Because as I explained, the very first valuation done by the owners of the property was for US $5,662,800. That was done since the 6th of August 2007. The only valuation that we've seen here of $3 million is one by Hastings Daniel of blessed memory, and we don't know whether that was $3 million US or EC. We then have another valuation done by Douglas Surveying of US $5.2 million. $5,232,000 to be precise. So those were the valuations, but importantly, no price was arrived at for paying. And that stayed that way from 2007 until 2013. It is only when we got into government in 2013 and we started to look at these matters, because Resthaven was part and parcel of some 13, if I recall, parcels of land that were compulsorily taken from divisions by the NRP government. And all of them had one thing in common: they paid for none. They took land in Jessops. In fact, just last week, the cabinet was engaged because we are now paying for lands taken at Jessops. We are now paying for lands taken at Jessops. And the gentleman has been pressing us for his money. We took land at Cohoons, Jessops, Government Road. We took Resthaven. We took land all over Nevis. When I say we, I mean the government, led by the NRP. And they paid for none. Not one red cent was paid to any of these people. So when I hear people now talk about prudence and recklessness, and they use all this language, say we're this and we're that. The people of Nevis would not have this debt hanging over their heads if we had simply left Resthaven property with its owners. Let them sort out their property. We rushed in without a plan, because touristic development is not a plan. We never told the people of Nevis, and any of you members of the press, search your archives. If anybody ever came to the people of Nevis and told us that we are acquiring Resthaven to do this or to do that, it was almost as if it was taken in the dead of night. We didn't know. We weren't told. And the property was acquired, not by way of agreement, but compulsorily acquired. That's when you take a man property from him. When property is acquired by way of agreement, you have a sale. Once you see you go down the road of compulsory acquisition, you take that person's property. And when the Board of Assessment did their assessment in 2013, the 21st of November to be precise, they said that their ruling was US $6,362,316.88. That is what they say the value of that property was. And they then tell you 6% interest, not starting today, but go back to when NRP take the people property. And so what you've seen now is that interest pancake year after year after year. We couldn't even start to pay then because we then had the litigation to deal with. That went to the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and then the Privy Council. So I just want to make it pellucid. And anybody, members of the press, you can have a copy of this dossier if you are interested, because the facts are clear. The Observer newspaper, don't know if they're online from that length of time ago, but I'm not trying to present anything here that is not accurate. The facts are clear. That Observer newspaper was in the Friday, October 26th, and then, of course, the first publication, as I indicated, was the 8th of October, 2007. 2007. The date of that paper was October 26, 2007. And the first publication was in the newspaper dated 8th of October, 2007. But that is the story. And I just want to say that that is what happens when you have reckless decisions made. People feel that government is some kind of joke sometimes. But you and I and our children now have to find $30 million. They used to, the NRP had a slogan one time on a road that was done, which had some difficulty. They say it was a $10 million mistake. Remember that, Mr. Hanley? $10 million mistake. Well, West Haven is a $30 million mistake. Because up to now, your past the West Haven property is still abandoned. People of Nevis have got no value from it. And it's only about 2 acres of property, 2.6 to be precise. And $30 million is the most expensive piece of real estate in the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis. Bad decisions have consequences. And this is now something we have to deal with. So all I did in the budget was to tell the people of Nevis that we have now had to book the amount. Now that the dust has settled and we have negotiated and everybody has agreed, we now have to put the amount in our books. We couldn't do it before because we didn't have agreement. But now that we have agreement, we have to put the amount. And as I'm speaking to you here, interest continues to accrue. We're negotiating with the owners for a resolution further to say to them, now that we know what we need to pay, could we find a way? We've even discussed with them if they would take back the property. These are ongoing discussions we're having because where are we going to find $30 million to try and fix this problem? But I think the chronology was important. I've taken a bit long, Ms. Hewlett, but I thought it important because I've seen the attempts to mislead. Again, rather than standing up, putting up my hands and saying, mea culpa, this was perhaps a bad decision. Instead, they have no sort to say that we are the cause of this situation. We are not. We must deal with it. Government is continuous. But the decisions that were taken and the process that was engaged in is what has put us in this pickle today. And I will not accept that we have been irresponsible. We have done the best that we could with the hand that we have been dealt. And we know the people of Nevis have to find $30 million to deal with this mistake that was West Haven. Any other questions for me? Oh, feedback from the diaspora policy, we don't have anything yet. It's too early. It's too early, Ms. Hewlett. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Just a follow-up on the mold issue. Mold is a concern, as you mentioned. Apart from the lab that was housed in the basement of the hospital, and while waiting on PAHO, can this mold travel to the second floor where patients are warded, or is it fully contained? And almost 1,800 accidents occurred in 2024 in St. Kitts and Nevis. Does the NIA have plans on installing additional speed bumps around the island for 2025 and beyond? That's it for me. Thanks.
Ms. Budgeon, thank you again. The mold issue, mold, as I said, is everywhere. So is there a possibility that mold can get into any place at the hospital? I'm sure the answer is probably yes. But as I said, we are monitoring the situation carefully. We have done what we've been advised to do to isolate and secure the areas that are affected downstairs. And unless there is contamination, meaning that people are going in and out of those areas and then going into the wards, I don't see that as a realistic risk at this point. So we have done what we need to do. We have isolated that area. We will, once we get the PAHO recommendations, implement those recommendations promptly. But I can't stand here today and tell you that you cannot have mold at any other place in the hospital or at our schools or right here in this building. In fact, right in this building we've had reports of mold already, and this is a new building. So it happens. It just, as I said, we need to move now to stop reacting and become proactive. Since we know it's a problem, we know it happens, to clean, treat, and test, and repeat. So we'll be doing that. So I don't think at this juncture, based on the advice that we've had, that it poses any risk whatsoever to our public, our patients, or those who work at the hospital. Speed bumps, you ask an important question. And you know the government would not have to spend any money on speed bumps if you help me encourage our people to be responsible. Because every accident is caused by people. People speeding, people being reckless, people drinking and driving, people smoking and driving, putting themselves in an impaired condition and then getting on the roads. And the worst part about it is sometimes the damage that they cause is not even to themselves, it's to other innocent people. You could be driving along at the speed limit, 20 miles an hour, and somebody comes around the corner going at 60 or 80, and your life ends because of their recklessness. I had a personal experience where I was in the area of Indian Summer Restaurant on that stretch of road there. And the speed at which a vehicle passed me, it made my vehicle shake. And when I responded, because as I heard, my windows are up, but I heard and felt, as I responded by pulling, naturally, it was a natural reaction towards the curb. A second one, and then a third one flew by me. And it looks like three people, let me not say youngsters, I don't know who they were, decided that the best use of their time was to race on the roads there. And I said then that God was with them and was with other road travelers, because if you know where Indian Summer Restaurant is, they were headed towards Cotton Ground. You know there's a corner right there by that spring that is there. And if there was anybody that was coming in the opposite direction, you would have had a catastrophic collision that would have happened there. Now, what is the government to do in those circumstances? If the police can catch them, prosecute them, yes. But our people, especially our young people, our bus drivers, you realize the accidents that ended in tragedy in St. Kitts, a few of them involve bus drivers. You have people that you're transporting. They need to get home to their families. They need to get to work. And you are speeding, music blaring, speeding. And then an accident and a tragedy happens. And then people, of course, say the government must do more. And I agree. But our people, we have to encourage a partnership. You say speed bumps. The police have said that they do not put speed bumps on main roads. So the island main road should not have speed bumps on it. They have posted speed limits. We have deployed CCTV. Perhaps in time we need to deploy the cameras that catch you when you're speeding, like they do in the States and all of that. But every step that we're forced to take costs money. So imagine we'll be forced to invest millions of dollars to put up those types of cameras, when the problem could be simply solved by our people making a conscious decision to be safe. You're driving in a car. I saw a fella pass me the other day. He has his child. He's driving and he has his child sitting in his lap while he's driving. When that accident occurs, that poor child has little if any chance of survival. People refuse to wear their seatbelt. People up and down, and you see them driving on their cell phones. It's against the law. And the police can't be everywhere at every time. So I continue to say to our people, listen, the life you save might be your own. It might be a member of your family. But the use of our roads is something that requires us to have a national discussion and to have some national prescriptions in terms of what we do. I have seen recently the police complaining, for example, that emergency vehicles, people are on the road, they hear the ambulance coming, they don't pull over. They keep along their business as if let the ambulance wait, let the police wait, let the fire truck wait. But you don't know if the person the ambulance is rushing to pick up is your mother or your child. Simple things, pull aside. And you see, as more and more and more vehicles come on the island, last year alone, I haven't seen the final stats, but based on what I saw, 3/4 of the way through, I think more than 800 additional vehicles would have come on the roads in Nevis. These are the ones from Japan. So those don't have anything to do with the ones that Hosfors and TDC and them are selling. Those are additional. So if you think about Nevis just last year with 800 new vehicles or additional vehicles on the road, and you reflect that is not new, meaning like it's every year you have hundreds, because everybody now wants their own vehicle. So when we used to have the time when a family of 4 had one family vehicle, that's not the case now. Family of 4 has 4 vehicles. And so more vehicles on the road, more pressure on the government to provide roads, and we have been investing in that infrastructure, but it also puts a greater onus on our people to be responsible. If you're going out to FET, designate somebody. You say, fella, by tonight you driving, you can't drink. The rest of us will drink, you're the driver. Next week, you get your chance, and someone else will drive. But we continue to act as if we are immune, that it's not going to happen to us. The roads are smooth, so sometimes you're speeding and you don't even feel it. When the roads were bumpy, you talk about speed bumps. One of the problems with our development is that we are putting good roads. Maybe if the roads continue to have the holes in them as before, people slow down. But now the roads are smooth, so people are speeding. So we need to encourage our people to be responsible and to do the right thing. The government must do its part, but our people also must do their part. And we must encourage each other. Some people seem to think that this thing, if you want to speed, go over on the drag race track, that is what that is built for. Not the island main road, not the village roads. We've had to put in speed bumps on Craddock Road, for example. Right? The reason we did that is because the residents were complaining. And we find that as we develop village roads more and more, we are being asked to know villages by their nature where families live. Children are out on the street playing, riding their bikes. Yet you have these drivers coming through. You have drivers with these big trucks traveling at high speed, full loads, where even if they were to apply the brake, the weight, they can't stop in time. The accident has to happen. And yet, you talk and you talk and you talk. And so the police must do their job. I've encouraged the traffic department time and time again to be out on the road, to stop and do what they need to do. But look at our public misbudgeting. The other day, traffic department stopped and did their checks for tint and other violations and issued, was it 300 and something tickets they issued in one day? And the whole of social media went into an uproar cussing the police. That's the nature of our people. They're not saying that, boy, I was wrong. I breached the law. No, they cost the police. But the police now must do what they need to do. And sometimes if you get 1 or 2 tickets, you straighten up. Because I heard one chap say he never used to wear his seatbelt, but after the first ticket, he started to put it on, because it's cheaper to put it on than to pay tickets. So we just need to encourage our people to do the right things. Any more questions for me?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Bjorn, and I'm a YouTube content creator. I do commentary videos reacting to news, breaking news affecting the African continent and the African diaspora. I also do travel videos. I have over 22,000 subscribers on YouTube and over 1.6 million views.
It's a YouTube channel, Mr. Hanley. I usually give you a chance to advertise, so go ahead.
I actually have 2
You
now.
have 2 channels now?
Yes, the main one is called Beyond Uncut, Beyond UNCUT Uncut, and the next one is called Beyond Travel, which is a new channel. I started about 2 weeks ago. That one is has over 100 subscribers.
And
already.
these are on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What's your question?
Mr. Premier, in your presentation, you said returning students will have opportunities. Well, I returned home from university in the UK with Bachelor's of Honours degree in Business and Management in 2013 with a grade of upper second class honours 2-1. I am still here waiting on that opportunity that you spoke so eloquently about. Mr. Premier, it's been so long, sometimes I don't even remember I have a degree. Question, not for myself anymore, but for the young returning graduates, can you list the opportunities that are available for returning graduates and the process in acquiring these opportunities? Question number 2, in your budget presentation, you mentioned that VAT is unfair for Nevisians. Nevisians are actually paying twice with VAT. You also mentioned some big companies in Nevis pay VAT in Sinkits. My question is, how do you intend to fix this problem? And how do you know that the money Sinkits sends to Nevis as budgetary support is not the same VAT that Nevis companies paid in Sinkits? In other words, how can we be sure that Nevis is receiving any money at all from the Citizenship by Investment program? Question number 3. The population of Anguilla in 1980 was 6,588 people. The population in Nevis in that same year was approximately 12,000 people. However, in 2024, the population of Anguilla grew to around 15,000 people, while in 2024, the population of Nevis is still around 13,000 people. Question, why do you think Anguilla's population is growing while Nevis remains the same? Question number 4, there is an abandoned building crisis in Nevis that is causing rodents and other diseases. There is also a mold crisis that you spoke about in buildings that are occupied. Question, what is your plan to clean up Nevis's abandoned building crisis? Question number 5, in your presentation you mentioned a number of plans for returning nationals, expats and foreign nationals on Nevis. Question is, what is the government's economic rescue plan for local Nevisians living on Nevis? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hanley, thank you for your questions, all quite comprehensive. You say you returned home and you're still waiting on your opportunity. I'm not sure why, because there's so many opportunities on the island. You have come. No, you're not too old at all. No, not at all. You have opportunities on the island. I recall that you went into politics. You offered yourself to represent the people of Gingerland. Perhaps you saw that as one of the opportunities for you to contribute. But I don't think that you should relent. You have now started what I would view as a small business in terms of your channels. And when I say opportunity, opportunity does not necessarily mean a government job. Opportunities mean that as the island grows and develops, there are opportunities. There are opportunities in our establishments, our private sector. In fact, I spoke to some restaurateurs recently who are about to open a new restaurant on Nevis. And they started to list some names of some young Nevisians who they had hired as manager and assistant manager and things like that of their enterprise. So the opportunities, and one of the things I encourage our people to do, Mr. Hanley, is sometimes you may not get immediately what you want, but you hold on to what you can until you get what you want. That's important. Right? I use myself as an example all the time, and I say to people, I've done every job in the world. I've been a cleaner. I've been a janitor. I was an electrical apprentice. I cleaned toilets in America. I scraped gum off the sidewalk in Manhattan and swept up cigarette butts. That was my job. I thought it was honorable work, and they paid me for it. But I didn't necessarily decide that I'm going to stay doing that. I did that until I could do better. That is the nature of life. And I think a lot of our people seem to feel when I say opportunity, oh, I'm going to come out of college and walk into some job, and if you don't have one, create one for me. It's not necessarily that. It means putting yourself. For example, you come out of university, you have a business degree. This government has put in place a fund which affords you up to $100,000. The interest rate now has been reduced from 4% to 3%. It's the cheapest money you can borrow on the island. And the only reason we do it as that rather than a grant, because we want the fund to be able to replenish and serve other people. But in Nevis now, as a young person, you can come out of school, and if you have a business plan, you get $100,000 in seed money to start. It's not a lot, depending on the nature of business you're going to do. But just as you have been innovative and have created this channel, YouTube channel, and I do watch it from time to time, let me just say. You need to work on the video quality though. Too much sound in the back. Because I was watching one the other day and I heard your dog barking and thing. You need to get a room in the house and better. So I have seen that. But that was you being innovative. That was you deciding, listen, I'm not just going to sit back. If that thing that I probably am looking for isn't yet available, then let me do something. And you may well now become the first YouTuber from Nevis that is known out there internationally. The Africa Focus is something that I think people gravitate to. And so I commend you for that. But I think that these are examples where our people can find opportunity wherever they are. Every time I hear of a job being advertised, a job being available, but even in government, we have jobs that we advertise from government and then HR tells me that they don't get any applicants. So people need to be on the lookout. I have often wondered, Mr. Hanley, that on this little island here, Nevisians will tell you they don't know. They never heard that. You all had something in place? I never know that. But people who don't talk English, no. I got people come to my office. I had a lady the other day come. She said, you know, hablo inglés. She bring her niece who speaks English. And she's asking me about a program that we have to help. And Nevisians who speak English, understand English, all in the community, I tell you, they've never know about that. But what are it that we are listening to as a people? What are we paying attention to? Because as a government, we keep churning out information. Every given day, there's a wealth of information being put out. You see, I just announced these scholarships. You know how many young people year after year say, oh, I didn't know the deadline. What are we to do? So opportunities are myriad. The opportunities for education, opportunities for jobs, opportunities to start your own business, right? But when I hear sometimes employers are telling me that they're struggling to find people, right? The call center in Brownhill, for example, they said they probably would have been up to about 140, 150 employees now. but they have been difficulty. Because call centers in particular, they have their, you know, if somebody calls at 8 a.m., somebody must answer the phone at 8 a.m. So you can't be tripping in at 8:30 and say, oh, your car broke down and your child was sick and all this kind of thing, because you have to be at work on time. And you know that our people have a problem, it seems, with time. And that's why perhaps most people want to gravitate to government, because they say I could go in anytime. I've been talking to the permanent secretaries to see how we could crack down on that. So we need to position ourselves. We need to pay attention. We need to know what is going on. And where there's opportunity, we need to grasp those opportunities. But I do believe that this island has opportunities, and those opportunities are growing. You talk about the budget presentation and Nivision's paying twice on VAT. I want to correct that because I never said that. What I said was that the way that VAT is computed is, in my view, putting undue pressure on our people. Because currently, and I made these comments at the federal parliament during the budget, currently if you bought an item for $100, let us say it costs $100 when you include your cost, insurance, and freight. So when it gets to long point, it's $100. And the duty on it is 20%. They work out the duty, that's $20. The customs service charge is 6%. They work that out as $6. What they're doing is taking the $100 CIF, adding the customs duty, $20, adding the customs service charge, $6, and then charging the VAT 17%, not on $100, but on $126. So you're paying tax on tax. And that is the comment that I made, and thought that we need to fix that, so that if you're going to charge the VAT, then it becomes a straight line. So everything is charged on CIF. So that you would then have 20%, $20 duty, 6% customs service charge, $6, 17% VAT, $17. And then your total cost will be 100 plus 20 plus 6 plus 17, as opposed to currently where they're adding back the duty and adding back the customs service charge and then using that now as the figure to calculate the VAT. So that was the comment that I made on that, and I'm still hopeful that the federal government will take that on board. That has been a concern certainly from the small business community. They say that that adds significantly to their costs. Big companies paying VAT on sink kits, and whether we know whether the money we're getting, we are advised that the proceeds we get are from citizenship by investment. Beyond that, I cannot go. So I am not in sink kits handling the money over there and saying, well, give them this because this represents the VAT, but tell them that it is from CBI. So I can't really answer that. I just know that we have got and what we continue to get, and we continue to press for those changes to be made so that Nevis can really benefit from the economic activity that's happening on Nevis. Because if you went down to Flow right now and you got a service that you paid VAT on, or you went to National Bank and got a service on which you paid VAT on, Nevis doesn't see any of that VAT. A lot of the goods that are on sale at the big companies in Nevis, the supermarkets, Nevis doesn't see any of that VAT because those goods are being landed on sink kits, paid for. A lot of the ladies and gentlemen as well who order online, their cosmetics, their clothes, their gadgets, those are coming in using West-Tech and E-Zone and those big companies. Once they land in sink kits, they're cleared in sink kits, and then they're sent over to Nevis. Again, customs in Nevis is not seeing the benefit of that. So we are not getting an accurate read in Nevis in terms of what our economy is really generating. And so we're asking for those matters to be addressed. I raised those publicly, and I will continue to raise them privately as well. Population of Anguilla in 1980, you said, was 6,900. Thereabouts. 2024, they jumped to 15,000. Population in Nevis is 13,500. I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Hanley. In fact, recent census have shown that the population in Nevis has been incrementally growing over the years. In fact, the last census they did, Nevis showed growth while St. Kitts showed decline in their population. That is the census prior to this one, so 10 years ago. This census now shows growth in both, but the growth in population in Nevis has been very incremental. It's been very small. And I have commented before that the country of St. Kitts and Nevis, we now have just over 50,000 people. The last time we had 50,000 people was 1960. So since 1960, we have not been able to get back up to 50,000 until this last census. So it took us 64 years to get back to 50,000 people. What the reasons are, I can't tell. Maybe our migration has been more. Maybe Anguilla, we know, has grown, its economy has developed. Maybe more people have come in to Anguilla for work and otherwise. And maybe Anguillans are having more children. I don't know that. So I invite you, Mr. Hanley, as I did before, do your part and have some children so we can help build the population. P.S. and I are already over the hill, but you're in your prime. Abandoned building in Nevis, I agree with you 100%. It's become a crisis. All across this island as you drive, you see abandoned properties, overgrown properties. It's the same in St. Kitts. In fact, I don't know if you all have seen the recent BBC documentary on Cole Palmer, who's now a brilliant young footballer in the UK. His grandfather was from St. Kitts. And one of the things that struck me in that documentary is that they showed where the grandfather grew up. So I think it's Dorset, and the house covered with bee bush. And it struck me because I said that is so much the story of so many of our people who left, went away, and have not returned. And so those properties have simply been left to deteriorate. And you ask, what is the government doing? In St. Kitts, they've just passed legislation to try and deal with it. I can assure you that we will be doing something similar in Nevis. But beyond that, Mr. Hanley, I come back to our people and our plan to ask our people to reintegrate into Nevis. Even if they don't physically come home, man, do something about your family property. A lot of these family properties are mired in confusion. 12 children, some in Israel, some in Istanbul, some in New York, some in Brussels. And none of them could agree. And so they let the property just deteriorate. What that does, however, it devalues your property. Because you're here, you've invested in your property, and next door to you, it's overgrown. Rats, rodents, criminals using it for all kind of reasons. And you have that kind of problem. So again, it comes back to us holding our people accountable. But a lot of those properties are not government. They're privately owned properties. And that is part of the problem. Finding those people sometimes, where are they? Some have passed. Some cannot be found. So we have to use mechanisms now. If you're not paying your taxes, that the government can somehow take the property, sell it, because a lot of people are looking for property, right? If you're not cleaning and keeping your surroundings clean, that the government can somehow go in, do it, and pass that cost on to you. That's the formula they use in St. Kitts. But we have to find a way, and we are working on finding a way. It cannot continue. While I'm on that, Mr. Hanley, we're also seeing a crisis of people storing old abandoned cars on their property. Sometimes you find them all on the side of the road, parked up. People who say they have mechanic shop, but the cars that they're supposedly servicing are along the sides of the public road. You have people who are going into residential communities and deciding they're going to open mechanic shop in the heart of a residential community so that people know who have invested in their property. A young lady called me up the other day. She's invested her life savings in her property. This is a pride and joy. So she can't get any sleep because fellas there are sanding and doing all they're doing illegally because they don't have any business license to set up any mechanic shop in a residential neighborhood. These are matters, again, going back to what I said about the farmers with the goat and sheep and all that. Our people continue to be of a view that my rights exceed and are more important than my neighbor's rights. So I'm going to play my music as loud as I can because that is the way I like it. I'm going to put a mechanic shop in my yard. I'm going to park up 100 vehicles in my yard. And basically, if it impacts the neighbor, that's a he business, that's a she business. I have said to people that when people do that, speak to your lawyer. because it is what in law is referred to as a nuisance. And you can get legal action to stop it or even to cause those people to pay you damages for any injury that you would have suffered. But I agree that the government also has to play its role. And through the Ministry of Health, through planning, and through new legislation that we are going to propose shortly, we hope to crack down hard on those kinds of activities. Let us not do that to each other. Let us try wherever possible, because you know the old saying, do unto others as you have them do unto you. Because do so, no love so, as our old folk would say. Anguilla, population, I've dealt with that. Crisis, I've dealt with that. Returning nationals, you say plans for returning nationals and expats. I want to correct that because the policy that I've announced has nothing to do with expats. Policy that I've announced has to do with nationals of this island, in fact this country, who want to come home and want to settle in Nevis or want to do business in Nevis. Alternatively, we have said that if you can trace your roots to Nevis and St. Kitts, even though you don't have citizenship, then you will also be accommodated. So it's not for expats at all. And you asked a good question. In fact, when we put this policy together, one of the concerns of the cabinet said, well, you're putting things in place for people coming back. What are you going to offer for people who are here? So I can tell you that we'll shortly be announcing a policy to assist small businesses on island as well. We have in the budget announced already that we are offering concessions on construction, and we've extended those concessions, the so-called first-time homeowners concessions. We've extended those to if you want to build a second home now, or if you want to expand your first home, you can now benefit from those concessions. But we will be putting in place a package, which I hope to announce shortly. Finance is doing the details on that, working with a small enterprise development unit. So we are not forgetting those who are here, but as a stimulus to try also to attract people and build that population, because I'm a firm believer that we cannot achieve a sustainable Nevis with 13,500 people. If you take out the children, you take out the elderly, you take out those who might be infirm, you really have a very, very small pool of working population and an even smaller pool of tax-paying population. You need people. And countries the world over, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, look at their model. They have imported people to fill those necessary gaps. So we need to look at it, but before we go to a wholesale importation of people, I think create the environment where our own people can decide they want to come home. And that is why I'm saying that if President Trump carries through on what he says he's going to do, then our people out there need to know that they have a home in Nevis, that this is where they're born, this is where their family is born, and that they're welcome to this island. This is their home. And let nobody take foreigners with you out there when you've got a place that you can come to. What they need to do is to put things in place and ensure that they have the necessary comfort. Families out there can pool their resources, Mr. Hanley, and build something here. So whoever comes, have a place to stay. All of these are possibilities. People are costing me on a daily basis, want a place to rent. You know, Nevis now has become quite popular with our Caribbean brothers and sisters. They're looking for a place to rent. Right? The homes and lands are there abandoned. With a nominal investment, you could get those places up to scratch, and get them rented. And what is now abandoned could become income earning. So we need to work at it, and we need to definitely do more and work together more to ensure that the island benefits. Any more questions for me?
LK Hewlett, Department of Information. While we're on people coming back, we see what's unfolding right now with regard to President Trump and places like Colombia, where the whole idea of deporting persons is now becoming a crisis. Can St. Kitts and Nevis handle mass deportation of our people back? And is there any kind of plan, any kind of talk? I know you're not in the federal government and that falls under foreign affairs, but I mean, if some of them come back and they belong to Nevis, I'm quite sure then that becomes the problem of the NIA. So has there been any thought process at all to that possible outcome?
The short answer is that I in fact started a conversation on social media, which I use as a town hall sometimes, to get views. We are unclear as to what the numbers are going to look like. We are unclear because we don't know yet how many illegals we have overseas. We don't have that data. I don't have even any estimates of that data. We know that based on our small population and based on the patterns of migration that we've seen over the years, that we anticipate the number will be relatively small. Because as I understand it, the deportation is going to focus first on criminals and thereafter on undocumented aliens who are in their country. So the number of Kitchens and divisions that fall into either category, I am not certain about. Having data, Ms. Hewlett, is going to be important if we are to come up with a plan. Because then we can say realistically, we expect 1,000 people, we expect 100 people. And the plan for 1,000 is going to look different to the plan for 100. So we have to get that data, and I would encourage the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to work with our embassies overseas, particularly those in New York and Washington, D.C., to start to accumulate as much data as we can get so that we can then use that data to form a plan here. My concern is that people may come back who are criminals, who would have perhaps done, violent crimes in America, drugs, you name it. We have people may come back who have mental health and other issues, who are violent people. And how do you assimilate them into our society? Many of them come back. In fact, when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, I recall one case where we had somebody who had left St. Kitts at age 6, moved to the Virgin Islands, got involved in a life of crime, went up to the mainland, in and out of prison. They finally were deporting him at age 42. And his argument was that he didn't have any knowledge of St. Kitts, knew nobody in St. Kitts, had no family in St. Kitts, but they were adamant that they were going to send him to St. Kitts. So when he lands in St. Kitts now, career criminal, 42 years old, what is he going to do? Those are the kinds of questions that we will have to ask, because our societies are small and can easily be disrupted by just a few. Having said that, however, it's not as if we can deny entry, because once these persons are nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have to take them. So it behooves us, therefore, to think about it. I believe, in fact, Ms. Hewlett, that not only St. Kitts and Nevis, but the OECS and CARICOM should come up with a plan so that we don't end up in a situation with a standoff as the Colombian president had with the U.S. president over this matter. Are there any more questions for me?
Quickly, Mr. Premier. On the issue of Nevis and fair share, you were answering a question previously that was similar to this. What, in your view, is the ideal model for what Nevis's fair share is? And I think the last report I saw some report that suggested that the World Bank, that they are making some progress in terms of the recommendation that they will offer the government of St. Kitts and Nevis regarding that. I know some time ago you weren't a big fan of that. You had expressed, why do we need to go to the World Bank when we can simply solve that here? Mm-hmm. Has your views changed on that, or have you changed your views rather on that, or is it still the same where that is concerned? And quickly, as it relates to the question of the proposals you have in place for returning nationals. Would you say that it is comparative to what Nevis offers to expats, or is it significantly more? Because there have been some criticisms, most specifically from the NRP, that what you're offering returning nationals pales in comparison to what you offer, or what Nevis offers to expats.
So, Mr. Hugh, I can tell you that Nevis doesn't offer anything to expats. So I'm not sure what that is about. What Nevis offers are incentives to anyone who's going to, for example, build a villa, something like that, they can apply. But the truth is that expats are not normally allowed to access the benefits that are offered here. So I am puzzled. I have not yet heard that accusation, but I'm puzzled as to what that is about, because if people are coming to set up business or whatever, then they apply in the normal course. If they're going to start a hotel, if they're going to start a new business, etc. But beyond that, in terms of somebody doing a personal construction or whatever, expats don't usually benefit from our concessions. So I'm a little...
You're speaking specifically to concessions for persons or investors.
Well, but if investors are coming, whether they're local or whoever, they get the concessions because they're coming in. So nobody could point and tell me that a Nivision coming home to invest is getting less than somebody else who's not Nivision who's coming in to invest. We treat investors very similarly, and I have been a very strong advocate for us to have a level playing field where our people are concerned. But this policy here is specifically geared to our people in the diaspora who want to come home, want to retire, or want to invest. This is a new policy that replaces existing policies for those. And if anybody can point to this to tell me that there's any expat who's getting better than this, then I don't know about that. Yes, you have institutions like Four Seasons and those which are employing 700-800 people. That's a different category of investment. And they tend to get certain tax and related concessions because their contribution is significant employment. But that accusation, I think, is misplaced, Mr. Huey. And I urge you, when next day is made, you ask them for the data. Because I could say anything. All right? I could make any kind of allegation. Usually, when you ask for the evidence, that's where the allegation breaks down. Fair share for Nevis. You asked if I backed away from the World Bank involvement. I've seen the political play on that as well. What I said at the time, I was in a unity government. Fair share was one of the central planks of why we got into that unity government. There was something called the Charleston Accord that all the political parties involved signed, PAM, PLP, and CCM. What happens is the Charleston Accord was used to catapult Timothy Harris into Prime Minister's chair with only one seat. We honored our commitment to him. But once he got there, he said the Charleston Accord didn't matter. It wasn't the law. But how you benefit from it to become PM, but afterwards you say it doesn't matter. So when he talked about the World Bank on the singular issue of our share of the CBI money, I said, well, that was nonsense, because I understood it was just a delaying tactic. What I meant by that was, we all know how much is CBI money. Well, I shouldn't say we all know. He would have known how much came in from CBI. So if it was 600 million, and it costs 100 million to manage and to operate your costs, we said to him, let us get the net figure. That is, the gross amount that flows in the gross revenue minus the expenses. And if that net figure, using my example, you took in gross revenue of 600 million, you spent 100 million to manage the program, to do all your promotions and all that, it leaves 500 million. Then let us divide that based on the population. The recent census, we have recent numbers. Nevis now is 27, 28% of the population. So said to Nevis, well, all right, a quarter, 25% comes to Nevis, 75% goes to St. Kitts. That's what we're saying, that it was quite possible to do that. As I understand it, now, what Prime Minister Drew is proposing with the World Bank, if I don't understand it correctly, then I would certainly ask him to clarify. But what I understood is that they wanted to do a wholesale analysis. So not just CBI, but also VAT, also corporate taxes, those kinds of things, leakages, to determine what the best share is going to be. So that is why I backed off, and I've just decided, let me allow the process to work, because I want to see what the numbers work out at. But the debate about fair share that was really so current during the elections of 2022 had to do with the citizenship by investment. Because based on our numbers, over the period of time, Nevis had got about $500 million, but St. Kitts had collected $5.5 billion. So what we got was in fact less than 10%, when we had nearly 30% of the population living in Nevis. And we were constantly being asked to account for our 500 million. We were asked to account, and I think we had worked it out at 8%. For our 8%. But somehow St. Kitts was never asked to account for its 92%. And that was the concern that we had and that we expressed quite publicly. So on that issue of fair share, I want to make it clear that my understanding now is that what is being done is a much wider analysis than just CBI. But the argument that we had on the team unit each time was we had agreed in the Charleston Accord that Nevis would get a share based on population of the CBI money. And that never happened. And we were constantly being told, well, hold this until, hold that until. And so the amounts went from 2 million a month to 3 million a month, eventually got to 5.5 million a month. But $5.5 million a month sounds like a lot of money. But then you see the numbers and you realize that 700 million was what was collected. Well, 5.5 million a month works out to 66 million for the year. So if 700 million was collected, then you realize that what we're getting is in fact crumbs from that cake. So this had nothing to do with taxes. This was a discrete issue. And my position then was, I did not need the World Bank. In fact, I think I recall saying a kindergarten student could look at the CBI money and say, take out the expense and divide the rest. That didn't need no World Bank. Now I'm hearing that the World Bank has come now to do an overall assessment of the financial situation between the two islands, and I have decided to keep my powder dry. I'm going to wait and see what it is the Prime Minister comes up with. It is something that we've talked about in our very first meeting when he became Prime Minister. It is now 2.5 years after he's Prime Minister. We have still not yet seen anything, but hope springs eternal. And I'm optimistic that I'll see something that I can say to the people of Nevis as equal citizens in this country, that this is what your share of what is happening in the country looks like. Insofar as tax is concerned, Mr. Huey, I'm going to make it very clear that I am very confident that Nevis can manage its own affairs, raise its own taxes, grow its economy. And I have had no interest in any tax money that Sinkis collects. If Sinkis is able to collect $1 trillion in taxes from activities in Sinkits, I say, God bless them. Let me look and see what I could do to take care of Nevis. But my concerns are when Nevis taxes are leaking to Sinkits, and my concerns are when non-tax money, like CBI money, comes into the country, like assistance that comes in from international agencies, that the island of Nevis is not left out, which has been the norm. And I have publicly commended Prime Minister Drew because even some funds coming in from a friendly government, he has made 25% of that available to Nevis, when that never used to happen. So I have said publicly that I thank him for that, but I am waiting very patiently to see what this analysis is going to look like. And so that, I hope, answers the questions that you have posed. The proposal for returning nationals, I say, we anticipate that we'll continue to work and create opportunities for them, but also for our people as well, who are here and living on the island. Anything further for me? Okay, you've kept me for a very long time to the members of the press. It's 1 o'clock, long past our usual ending time, but I want to thank all of you for being here. Those who have stuck with me, it's been 3 hours. I think that's a marathon. So those who have stuck with me, thank you. And we look forward certainly to seeing you next month for another edition of this, the Premier's Press Conference. So thank you, members of the press, and I'm truly grateful for the opportunity.